Who are we sponsored by?
Big Biscuit Gang.
I thought you were gonna say Big Food.
Big Food, Big Biscuit. Grit Gang.
Full chaos mode here on Saturday. We figured we could be professionals, but then we realized no, that's not us. So figured I would start recording as Nolan is chowing down on his breakfast, because one, he does a good job of eating off mic, which is very helpful for me, so I don't skits out, but also because it's just funnier that way.
FYI, I can't see you. Yeah, that's why I asked if this was an audio-only episode of me eating.
Very interesting. Can you see me now? Okay. Oh, I was wondering about that. Cool. So I'm sure you're wondering why we gathered you here today, and it's to share our favorite films. We actually did a recording of this years ago, and it's not lost to time, but it was done in person, and I think we talked about this before. Our favorites are gonna change. Like if we went over this like next month, I'm sure they would change, just because, you know, your preferences change depending on your mood, depending on what's going on in life, depending on your own reflection. So we have for you, we're very excited to share this. I know people have been interested in kind of getting some of our favorite movies. To be clear, these are not our top films, but there is some like cross between this list and what we would call our top films. But I just want to be clear on that. These are just subjectively our favorite films. So the format we did before when we recorded this was we went in alphabetical order, and then basically if I mention a film and it's on Nolan's list, then basically we spend a little bit more time talking about it. But most of the movies we both have seen. I think you probably end up having more that I haven't seen, just because you've seen more movies than I. Just no thoughts going through the head. This is a tasty biscuit. Just trying to do a fucking introduction to the show. Biscuit Gang.
The biscuits are so powerful that my camera has gone out of focus.
Yeah, I noticed that.
There we go. There we go.
So
we'll break it again. Don't worry.
So if you are interested in simply just like viewing our favorites, I'm sure we will put like an aggregate list together for you so you can take a look at it. But yeah, otherwise, let me sort this by alphabetical order. All right, I think I'm good. We're going from Z to A or A to Z?
I figured from A to Z.
Okay.
You want to do it from Z to A?
No. I just figured I would ask. All right.
Yeah, so to be clear, this is 150 movies, not 100, which I think is what's behind me.
Yes, you have 100 up on the graphic behind you, but I'm pretty sure I said, I only said top films. Yeah, that's my bad. 150. So, it's gonna end up being more than 150, just because Nolan is sharing his 150 and I'm sharing my 150. It'll probably work out to be 175, 225, somewhere between that.
Last time I think when we did this, it was like 60 to 70 that we had in common.
Oh wow, that's far fewer than I thought, actually, which is good. That makes for good discussion. Cool. Without further ado, first one, 12 Angry Men from 1957 by Sidney Lumet. And this is probably the epitome of courtroom drama, as well as like pretty realistic setup. It is a pretty short movie. It's a star-studded cast as well, but it is expertly edited.
That great Martin Balsam.
I still can't remember who that is, but yeah, this is a movie that's based on a play.
He's juror number 1.
Okay, I'll just have to look him up as we're discussing this. It's been a long time since I saw this, but I think the first time I saw it was in 8th grade, and I remember being very emotionally affected by it. And it like one of the big themes from it is that there's always more to the story than is presented, like not only to the movie that's being presented, but when it comes to, you know, making judicial decisions and decisions on someone's life, there might not, you might not have all of the facts, basically. So it's a very powerful movie. I really need to watch it again, honestly. But okay, I see who he is. Do you have this on your list? Okay, cool. I know you're eating because I just pressed the button and wanted to start recording, but I don't know if you have anything to add to this.
Yeah, a few points. It's funny to call it a trial movie because it's obviously only about the jural discussion.
Right.
I think it starts with like the very end of the closing arguments of the trial, and then it's just, 12 guys locked in a room talking about justice. It's obviously a very rose-colored glasses view of the situation, and it does center around sort of racial prejudice, class prejudice, and how one man attempts to sort of romantically fight against any sort of prejudice or flaws in the judicial system to come up with, a verdict of not guilty.
Right, because correct me if I'm wrong, but basically 11 of the people are all in agreement, and they're like, all right, I think we're good. And then the guy's like, wait, what about this? And then they like spend a little bit more time, and then they start to it starts to unravel from there, the more questions that are asked.
Yeah, because when they come in, a handful of the jurors are like pretty indifferent. They just want to leave. Like the one guy wants to go to a baseball game. Like some of them just don't want to be there. And yeah, just the one guy's, saying, yeah, I don't know if this guy's good. Maybe we should talk about this. Slowly but surely sways every single person by breaking the law. And, by definition, the funny part of the movie is that it would be a hung jury.
Right.
Because juror number 7, the guy who convinces everyone, just does multiple things you're not allowed to do as a jurist. Like investigating the crime on your own. Like the scene with the knife, like they tamper with evidence. There's all kinds of hilarious shit. I do like that the movie is just firmly against any sort of witness testimony, just saying like, yeah, people are stupid and don't know what they're talking about, and you can't trust their eyes. Like, no, witness testimony is no good.
I mean, that is also like pretty firmly documented, that witness testimony is abhorrently bad. It's very, very, very poor to rely on witness testimony. Not in all cases, I might add, but yeah, I remember in 8th grade being like very affected by that concept of, well, wait, like I know you're in a rush, like you want to go to a baseball game, but like this is literally someone's life we're talking about here. Like this is serious, and not all decisions that you make in life obviously have to do with someone's life, but I just really like that concept that, okay, let's slow down. Let's like actually ask all of the right questions and try to figure out if there is more to this story, or if we have this right or not. But if we do spend the time, it'll be worth it. So yeah, I just really, really like that sort of like pause, as opposed to rushing through things. I think it's important to keep in mind. I think the last time we did like every other, so if you want to mention your second one.
My second one, I'm sure you also have, which is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
No,
don't have it. Okay.
No, I do. That'd be pretty bad.
Oh.
No, I
Yeah.
have it.
Yeah, the grandest and most classic of the more serious or cerebral space operas. Uh, slow paced, beautifully shot, wonderful special effects. A classic Kubrick film, still aped and paid homage to today by pretty much anybody who works within the sci-fi side of the film industry. Uh,
A
yeah,
downright must-watch piece of cinema. I am very much looking forward to watching Solaris. I appreciate that you gave that to me this year as a gift. I forget for my birthday or Christmas, but that's one that comes to mind as well in regards to this. But I will probably be revisiting this movie. I'm gonna try to not say that like 100 times over the course of this favorites list because yeah, obviously we like these movies a lot, but must watch cinema. A movie that covers I don't even want to say so many bases. It's kind of like which bases does it not cover?
pretty much the base is covered in Solaris.
Yeah, no, I'm saying 2001. Like what bases of humanity does it not cover?
Yeah,
Like
the ones covered in Solaris.
Oh, okay, got it, got it.
I mean,
Um,
it's the actual sort of meaning in the movie is about the way in which man's reach exceeds his grasp, and how a push towards technological innovation will inevitably in some way doom us or introduce us to things that we can't understand, especially in regards to space travel.
and how space and time and thought may all just be one.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, the last 20 minutes of the movie are so up for interpretation because of a lack of any sort of narrative through line that you can pretty much ascribe anything that you want to it in terms of meaning,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the ending being a big old fetus. So, the life cycle of the protagonist being death, aging, death, rebirth. You can get whatever you want out of it.
Definitely.
Alien Zoo.
Man, that makes me think of Kurt Vonnegut. Cool. So I'll go next. I actually have one in between that we leaped over. 12 Monkeys.
All right.
12 Monkeys by Terry Gilliam. I think I've seen this movie twice. Speaking of space and time, yeah, very, very excellently acted movie and pretty wild philosophical concepts within this movie. It's a wonky-eyed Brad Pitt and Bruce Willis. Yeah, super good. Really fun movie. Strongly recommend watching it. It's a bit of a mind effort, mind psychological, exploration. So have fun with that one if you haven't seen it. I don't want to say too much more about it.
Yeah, time travel. Bruce Willis, Brad Pitt, Christopher Plummer.
Terry Gilliam as well. I know I mentioned him before, but he's the director and he just has like you can just tell he just has so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting he did not write the movie.
No.
It was written by some peoples.
Yeah, but so if you're not familiar with Terry Gilliam, by the way, he directed other movies like he didn't do never mind.
He'll come up. He'll come up again. I've got him. Got some
The
movies directed by him.
The Fisher King, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and Brazil, as well as some other ones, but those might be ones that some of you are familiar with. All right, you want to move on?
Yeah. Next one I have is 8.5. It's just a number.
Yeah, I recently saw this. Didn't quite make the cut for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, just a great fantasy sort of meta-narrative art house movie. It's a 1963 Federico Fellini film about a filmmaker who doesn't know what movie he's gonna make, and then you watch him make the movie.
Yeah,
Trippy, great visuals, well written.
It's a pretty
Depressing,
solid
romantic.
piece of meta narrative and meta commentary. I'm sure if I went through my list with a fine tooth comb, I would put it on there instead of something else. But like we said before, depends on the month that you ask us.
Yeah, I mean that this one will probably always be one of my favorites.
It's also a funny title because it's the director Fellini had 8 movies before it, and so people are like, "Why'd you call it 8.5?" And he was like, "Because this is my 8.5."
Yeah, I mean it's to understand the film in its entirety. It helps to have seen his other films because it is sort of as a meta movie, it is in conversation with itself, and with his other work.
How postmodern of him.
He may literally be the modernist filmmaker. Hated postmodernism. Hated those French people.
No, I was more saying that because it's in conversation with itself. But
Yeah. No, his use of self-reference is pretty extreme. It's definitely his most postmodern film because a lot of his other stuff dabbles in neorealism and pseudo documentary.
Yeah, I'm playing through all the different clips in my head of that movie, and yeah, that movie is really awesome. Just so many great scenes.
Oh, Fellini will return again, so we'll talk more about him.
Perfect. Next, I have 28 Days Later, which is a nice zombie horror drama directed by Danny Boyle from 2002.
Like an action movie.
Very, very fun scenes, and by that I mean instead of the zombies just kind of like going at you slowly, these zombies run, which I think is pretty realistic. You know, since they want the flesh, it would make sense that they would chase people as fast as humans can chase people, which is terrifying.
Technically not a zombie, you know.
Right.
They're just sick. They have a virus.
Sure, it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more scientifically inclined science movie than other zombie movies.
No, that's like an actual criticism people have is I was looking around for a pair of glasses, but they push up the actually, it's not a zombie movie because it's a rage virus.
Shut the fuck up.
My apologies.
Yeah, it's the concept is a zombie movie. Cillian Murphy, who I'm sure you're familiar with now, from Oppenheimer and Peaky Fucking Blinders. Yeah, he's the star of this movie. Yeah, great movie. Would strongly suggest watching it on a nice rainy day, or a nice sunny day. What have we got next?
Clockwork Orange.
Wait, so you did not have 28 days?
No.
Okay.
No. I like 28 Days Later well enough, I suppose. But there are other zombie movies I like better. I don't know, Danny Boyle's directorial style does match 28 Days Later really well, but I don't know, there's something about that movie that just doesn't go all the way for me.
That's fair. That's definitely a fair criticism. There's a third iteration of it coming out actually pretty soon.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll get to that one.
A Clockwork Orange. I do have it, obviously.
Yeah, I guess I'll try to like say why I like the movie more than just describing what the movie is. Clockwork Orange. What do I even like this movie? No, it's this movie's phenomenal. A great examination of institutional power and the effects on institutional power by like sort of to the average citizen, in this case, you know, young males with no purpose in life who then become ultra-violent murder hobos.
Murder hobos.
Yeah, murder hobos. Literally murdering hobos.
Well, that makes it sound like they're hobos who murder.
I mean, kind of. They are. Some of them are. But yeah, great concepts, dozens, if not hundreds, of extremely memorable visual scenes. Pretty much every scene in the movie is quite memorable. As usual with Kubrick, everything is perfectly shot. The pacing is consistent and coherent. I mean, most of the dialogue is ripped straight from the novel, which I think works really well. The music is this like sickening synth score with lots of Beethoven peppered in.
Yeah, it's an incredibly powerful and disconcerting movie as well. Like it's one of those movies that you're like so bewildered and confounded by like what you're watching, but also like recognize it as art. But at the same time, like it's very like provocative and evocative as well. Like it'll hit like all sorts of different emotional buttons for you. So if you haven't seen it, fair warning of that.
Oh, yeah, trigger warnings abound. Lots of violence. And not like
yeah,
not like gory modern day violence.
no rape.
Uh-oh, there goes our monetization. How are we gonna be sponsored by Big Biscuit when you're out here talking about rape?
It's in a piece of cinema. Something. I'm sorry, Big Biscuit.
Grits Gang will no longer sponsor our videos.
I guess we have to skirt around language now and censor ourselves so we can get Scrapple to sponsor us. Actually,
the Scrapple Squad.
Scrapple probably doesn't care. We don't have to censor ourselves for Scrapple.
No, Scrapple. Yeah, we don't want the Scrapple. The Scrapple Gang.
Yeah, it is funny that we sorted this by alphabetical order, and within the first five, Kubrick comes up twice, but that's just kind of how it's probably gonna go.
No, he's not on here again.
Well, he might be. I was just saying he's already on here twice, 2001 and A Clockwork Orange.
I see his name 3 more times.
All right, moving on.
It's only a third of my list.
A Fistful of Dollars is next for me. 1964, Sergio Leone. This movie has probably been discussed to death. Yeah, a great sort of triptych spaghetti western homage movie. Yeah.
What do you like about it?
Oh, true. That's the framing that we should go for. I very much like the pacing. I really like the shots. The shots are remarkable and cutting edge for the time. I really like I don't really want to say the action scenes, but like the tension that's built up to the action, which has been ripped and redone and chopped and screwed throughout.
Leone himself in this film. Goddamn ripped it off. Thief.
Yeah. So yeah, there's just like all sorts of like fun experimental stuff that happens or experimental stuff that he does that lands like just perfectly, and that from nowadays we like just take for granted. And people who haven't seen the movie will watch it and just be like, oh, okay, like, yeah, that was a great movie. But they don't realize that a lot of it was groundbreaking for the time, the way that he put it all together. Obviously the acting in it is great. The casting is perfect.
I mean, there had been plenty of westerns like it before. I think the novelty of the movie is the sort of gray-natured morality of the unnamed protagonist.
Yeah, and the stripped back dialogue helps with that as well.
I mean, it's like the fact that he just murders numerous people in cold blood for no reason other than for profit is that's probably the most notable element of, I would say, the whole trilogy.
Right, but the only reason he gets away with it is because it's Clint Eastwood. Look at his charisma.
Yeah,
he's got that.
He's smarter than everyone else.
He's got that riz. Yeah, he's smarter than everyone else. He does the old double, triple cross where he's playing both sides against one another until it culminates.
Well, I'm more of a Yojimbo man myself.
That's fine. So you don't have this one?
I don't have this one, no.
Okay.
I do. Right. Sergio Leone will come up. Clint Eastwood will come up. Don't worry.
You're up.
That reminds me, I left the movie off my list. Damn it. Next one I have is A Serious Man.
Yeah, I have that as well.
To me, one of the funniest movies ever made. Reliably makes me laugh. It's also quite thought provoking. It's a 2009 black comedy / drama directed by the Coen brothers, starring Michael Stuhlbarg as an average run-of-the-mill math professor in Minnesota. And the movie is pretty heady. There's a lot of very dry humor, a lot of very Jewish humor. Like it centers around him sort of struggling with his own faith, and everyone around him insists that he see the rabbi for guidance. And then he just absurdly can never talk to the rabbi. So he has to talk to other rabbi who either give him bad advice or completely insane advice. It's to me, it's just nonstop funny. Every scene has something very funny in it, and it finds a way to laugh at almost anything and everything. It features all the best elements of the Coen brothers as a writing duo, while still managing to be a mostly serious drama about a man's struggle with faith in the face of sort of the dissolution or lack of control that he feels over his family as his wife leaves him for Saul Abelman.
I don't remember who Saul Abelman is.
It's the guy. He's the guy that his wife leaves him for.
Yeah. Like you said, that's just the guy's name in the movie, or it's not the actor?
Yeah. Okay. I don't remember the actor's name.
I thought you were referencing like the person that came to mind was Monk when you said that, and I knew that's not who it was.
No, I don't think Tony Shalhoub or Schlaub. I don't think he's in this movie.
No, I don't think he is. But yeah, this movie is absolutely downright hilarious. Like every scene is just filled with Coen brothers humor, which is like I'm trying to think how to describe their humor. It's similar to British humor in the like dark or black comedy sense, but it's very dry, like you said.
It's absurd and dry and often violent. In this film, that's not the case.
There's many layers, and like pretty esoteric references.
Like I mean, the opening scene.
The movie.
Yeah, a D-book. What? A D-book.
It just opens in like a random like Russian countryside. Yeah, it's very wild. Lots of different, like you said, cultural examinations, funny culture clashes.
Culture crash.
Yeah,
literally a scene where a Korean father is trying to bribe the main character to give his son a better grade. And the guy's like, I don't want to take a bribe. And the guy's explanation for how he's not bribing him is saying, culture crash. And just slamming his hands.
So funny. Yeah.
It's just his racist neighbors. Is this guy bothering you? Yeah, great movie. All right, what do you got?
I have one before that, actually, A Ghost Story from 2017. I really like how experimental this movie is and ambitious. Basically, like most of the movie is just following around a wild Casey Affleck with a blanket over his head, which is like a really funny way of boiling the movie down that I just said is on my favorites list. But it's done so well. It's a very emotional movie and examination of life and death and all of our finest moments and not so fine moments, and basically how to make the most of life, and also like the lasting impact that we have on people, and how we shouldn't take that for granted. Yeah, it's very, like, I would say simply shot, not in a critical way, but actually that there's more power in simplicity than making things more complicated. So yeah, definitely check it out. It's not necessarily a sad movie, but it's definitely like an emotionally charged film. Maybe a bit somber, but really solid, deep movie in its simplicity, like I said.
Oh yeah, I do not have it. Uh, I think it's a. I probably. I think it's a better movie than I enjoy it. I don't know. Part of the like it is of the highest quality filmmaking. It just the emotional resonance isn't isn't totally there for me.
Yeah, I
But
got you.
no, it's definitely a near masterpiece level.
There's another movie on probably both of our lists that probably gets at similar themes as well. So I at least added it on here, but what's your next one?
Adaptation.
Yeah, I have it.
Hey,
Man, do I need to watch this one again?
yeah, this is another comedy from the early 2000s, written by Spike Jonze, or sorry, directed by Spike Jonze, written by Charlie Kaufman. Um, both of their Spike Jonze here is more of a craftsman, just getting the job done, whereas Charlie Kaufman's script just runs the show. The movie is about um, a fat, depressed writer played by Nick Cage who struggles to adapt a novel for his next movie. And he has to deal with his twin brother, also played by Nick Cage, being better and more popular than him. It is very funny. It's pretty meta. There's great performances by Meryl Streep and what's that guy's name? Chris something. Embarrassing.
Embarrassing that you don't know.
Terrible. Yeah.
Oh,
There's a guy in the American Beauty and the Bourne Identity. At any rate, it's very funny. It's extremely well written. It's about loneliness, depression, and the art of writing.
oh yeah, Tilda Swinton, a wild Tilda Swinton. Chris
Mhm.
Cooper.
There it is.
Holy shit.
There he is.
I could picture him, but yeah, it didn't come to mind. There's also two Nick Cages as well. I don't know if you mentioned that.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
It may have slipped by, but yeah, Nick Cage playing Charlie Kaufman and his twin brother, and they're both just like goofy fat guys. One of Nick Cage's finest performances, and this is a 40+ year career in great performances.
Brian Cox is casually in here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Stephen Tobolowsky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great movie.
Damn.
Very funny, heartwarming, serious. It runs the gamut.
Yeah, like you said, it hits all sorts of different emotional buttons.
And it's still intellectual as well. It scratches every itch. Dumb humor, highbrow humor,
Anxiety ridden.
ridden. Yeah,
Every single Charlie Kaufman movie is like, bro, you gotta relax. you need to figure something out.
this is Charlie Kaufman's most relaxing movie.
It's true. It's very true. No, I was just looking back at the movies we have. Like, we definitely have some like hidden gems on here, I would say, like of movies that some people probably either have never heard of or haven't explored yet, which is good.
We haven't gotten there yet. We need to go a little deeper to hit the real hidden gems.
Yeah, like these aren't like deep cuts per se, but I like that we don't have, I don't know, just like big budget pieces of the zeitgeist.
Like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
It's on there, but I'm saying not all of the movies are that. Yes. Speaking of which, I know I didn't say much about adaptation, but yeah, I do really love that movie, obviously, because it's on my list. I have Aguirre, The Wrath of God, next. Aguirre, 1972 Werner Herzog movie. I love where to begin with this one. Realistically depressing and haunting the movie is, and terrifying. Yeah, the shots are perfect in this one. Yeah, I love all the tracking shots, all the shots on another boat, just like moving around the conquistadors. Yeah, it's it really, really makes you feel like it's a documentary, which obviously Werner Herzog is well versed in.
I would argue the finest maker of documentaries.
Exactly.
I don't have too much to add. Aguirre is not on my list. It is a phenomenal movie. Pretty sure Werner Herzog may have missed my list.
Yeah, it's how do I say this? It's not that I put this one on here just to check the box of Werner Herzog, but I also felt like I didn't really have a movie that was like this, and it'd be sort of like a disservice to myself, I guess, because like the way that I tried to compile this list is like I feel like these movies are a part of who I am artistically. Like they feed into some type of emotion or like part of my psyche, and I appreciate that they exist. Obviously, like that's why they're on my favorites list. So so for this movie to be on the list, it's like reinforcing those ideas. And yeah, like I really like the very like natural exploration of man being pitted against nature and man being pitted against man, and the way that Werner Herzog captures that in a documentarian style, that you can just feel the pain of the people in it and also of the insanity.
Just the raw menace of Klaus Kinski.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I couldn't think of his name, but what an actor.
Yeah, he's also in Fistful of Dollars, isn't he? Or is it only a few dollars more?
I think he is. You're right. What do you have next?
Alien.
Yeah, I have it. As expected, obviously.
Oh, Alien. What a perfect monster movie. Directed by Ridley Scott, written by Dan O'Bannon, came out in 1979. What to say about Alien? The ultimate sci-fi horror movie. Basically a great like haunted house movie. Characters are trapped on a ship. They accidentally create an alien, and then it hunts them down one by one, takes over the ship.
Create an alien.
Yeah, they find a crashed ship, which is letting off a distress signal that they go to, and then on the ship there's thousands and thousands of egg-looking things, and one of them spurts out an alien that hugs the guy's face, and then it impregnates John Hurt, and then he births an alien from his chest, and then it goes on a spree.
Okay. I thought I was misremembering the movie where they scientifically like manufactured the alien in a lab or something.
No, that's done in the prequel sequel, Alien 5 or Alien 6, Alien Covenant.
Let's just talk about Alien. Please, God, no.
Yeah, I don't have too much else to say. I mean, the production design, the art direction in this film is incredible, top notch. Geiger, I believe, was the primary influence behind a lot of the art direction, both for the alien itself and a lot of the sort of designs of the ship. Just from a screenwriting perspective, I think this is Dan O'Bannon's best work, who is a great sort of schlock sci-fi horror writer and director of his own. And then Ridley Scott is the one that came in and directed it, which I would give him less credit than to just say like it's a Ridley Scott movie. Or something like that. He's kind of a really excellent commercial director. Like he comes in and can manage a project really well and make sure you get the right shots. And that's what this movie is, a great collaborative effort. I mean, a bunch of good performances too. Obviously, this is what helped launch Sigourney Weaver's career. And then it features John Hurt in the role of the man who gets slaughtered, and Ian Holm as creepy doctor man who's actually spooky android.
Yeah. Very, very fun, and just a movie that you can revisit so often. It's one of those movies that is scary enough, but also just like so well written that it's just so much fun. Every time you watch it, it's just such a fun movie to watch. I'm gonna mention my next movie and then see if you mention your next one, and if I don't have it, I'm going to go to the bathroom real fast because I just chugged water and a drink, and yeah,
All right,
Anyway,
what do you got?
American Beauty,
Do have it.
1999 Sam Mendes movie. I was very scared that I didn't have this on here when we started. Actually, like I forgot if it was on here, and I'm thankful it is. Very, very fun, somewhat absurdist movie in some ways, but it explores life's finest moments and also just how we get so caught up in our lives and other people's lives that we miss the meaning, and the we miss what life is all about, and also that we make our own fates. Like we do, like life is a choice, basically. Yeah, there's a lot of good uh character sort of tension between like groups of characters. It's really well directed, and I really like the emotional beats of the movie. It's also pretty like punchy at times with its like funny scenes. There's a lot of really memorable scenes
We
of
we have
humor,
a
and
very different view of this movie.
there's funny scenes and there's emotionally charged scenes. I
I
mean,
mean, I think this is a really dark movie about the undercurrent of depression in American society, which causes a sense of malaise and is a very biting critique of living in suburban America.
yeah,
Uh,
I was gonna get to the end without saying what happens at the end, but yeah, I was gonna also talk about the foil, the flip side of the coin being rather dark, but
I mean, to me, it's basically just a less surreal version of Blue Velvet, with
Mhm.
more of the niceties to dress it up to make it appropriate for like American award ceremonies.
Right.
And obviously, what saves the movie is the stuff like the Wes Bentley filming the plastic bag, uh,
Yeah.
the sexual tension between Kevin Spacey and his daughter's friend, and then Kevin Spacey and his closeted homophobic next door neighbor Chris Cooper.
Yeah.
A phenomenal script uh, by Alan Ball. I'm not really familiar with any of his other work. I'm sure he's written something of note. Whereas Sam Mendes went on to become a big time director who directed nothing but mediocre big budget movies. Uh,
1917. I really like those shots in that movie. They did. Sorry. That's just something that I hear all the time.
just not a well made, not a well crafted picture.
A-
Sorry
Alan
if you like
Ball.
1917. I don't like it.
I've never seen it. I I won't watch a war movie unless many people like are breaking my door down, telling me to watch it.
Can you
Um.
believe they did it in one take? All right, let's pause here and we'll get back into it.
Okay. All right. What's next?
Next on my list is Alphaville.
Ah, shit. I still haven't seen it.
She is a Jean-Luc Godard film, a French science fiction movie, written and directed by French New Wave legend Jean-Luc Godard. It is about a basically an American hard-boiled detective is sent to Alphaville, which is some sort of futuristic place run by like AI, and he's sent in to stop the AI because the AI has created a society without basically art or love. A lot of elements of Brave New World, some elements of 1984, but all in the style of Jean-Luc Godard. So it is extremely romantic, self-serious, but also not self-serious. Tons of great conversations with French people smoking in cafes.
Oh, love that.
Yeah. Lots of great discussions about language and the importance of language and how we think. Certainly an examination of the pitfalls of an over-reliance on technology, um, and the dangers of that over-reliance. And I think it's as prescient now as it was then. I don't think it is among Jean-Luc Godard's like most famous or most enduring works, although it is for me. Great set design, like a lot of good production design. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough.
Just hear my cats yipping in the background. They're not happy I'm playing with them. So, to be clear, you did not have American Beauty.
I did have American Beauty. I did. I did indeed.
Oh, right. I mentioned it, so then we jumped ahead. I see.
Yeah, and Alphaville, whatever, alphabetically comes before, but yeah, we're not even through A. So we're
That's fine. We can take our time. Yeah, that's been on my watch list for a while. I think I was either having trouble finding it or excuse me, something. But
I own a copy, so I'll have to get that to you.
okay, cool. I think it's on Criterion or Canopy, one or the other. Next I have American Psycho.
Me too.
Finally, we have a female director on the list.
Not good.
I mentioned that only because like this movie you would never suspect if you're thinking about movies in gender roles that it's directed by a woman. Yeah, incredible movie based on a book which I have not actually read, but wow, what a psychological movie. I think it's kind of like a flip side of A Beautiful Mind in some way. For some reason that thought was triggered. Just with like the way the main character is plagued by his own psyche, and it's unclear whether or not everything in the movie is like actually happening or like if it's fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's definitely similarities philosophically with American Beauty. I think American Beauty is primarily about Kevin Spacey attempting to escape and transcend
I
the
thought I said A
cultural
Beautiful
restraint.
Mind.
Oh, Beautiful Mind. Oh,
Yeah, maybe I misspoke. I meant A
oh,
Beautiful Mind.
you may have said that.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, I have no comment on A Beautiful Mind. But American Psycho is a great movie about a man who is driven mad by the cultural confines of his time and place. Corporate New York City in the 90s. A thorough examination and brilliant deconstruction of toxic masculinity in the corporate environment, with an all-time great performance by Christian Bale as Batman. I mean, Bateman.
Do you like Huey Lewis and the News?
Terrifying.
Yeah. What do you got next?
Amoris Peros, aka Life's a Bitch.
Same. Same. I thought it was Love of Dogs.
It's definitely Life's a Bitch.
Amoris is life.
I don't speak Spanish. No hablo español.
Anyway, what do you like about the movie?
Mostly the title.
Oh my god. Amoris does mean loves, to be clear. It literally translates to dogs loves or loves of dogs. Loves a bitch is another that's another way of interpreting the title, but yeah, not life.
I'm just telling you what it's called. It's you can disagree with the particularities of it, but that is a subtitle of the movie.
Life's a bitch.
Yeah.
The literal translation is dogs loves or loves of dogs.
So you've seen the movie, so surely you can understand how an interpretation of the title being "Life's a Bitch" makes more sense than "I love dogs."
Well, loves a bitch, yeah, makes more sense.
This is brutal. I just gotta push past here. It's a movie about killing dogs, beating dogs, shooting dogs, dog on dog. Also, there's some humans who fail to fall in love with each other in the brutal streets of Mexico.
Yeah, it's shot in that turn of the century, like grimy fashion. Really, really great shots. Yeah, I love this movie. It's devastatingly beautiful, I would say. Very moving film. Like every piece of the triptych is really moving. Definitely
Yeah.
need to be in a certain mood to watch it, that's for sure. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
really good.
I think this movie more than any other movie on our lists is probably the hardest to recommend because, even though we just talked about American Psycho, openly considered a classic in which a man murders like 9 or 10 people brutally with like chainsaws and axes. Amoris Pros, not approachable for most people. They don't like seeing dogs die. They do not like that, which is why they should never visit Mexico.
That's the life lesson. Jesus Christ. I'm literally going to Mexico next month.
Well, I can't legally recommend that you gamble on dog fighting, but
I won't have time for that because, as you said, life's a bitch or love's a bitch. I'm going there for a wedding, so
this movie is like very it felt very like classically written. Like there's something very classic about the writing style. Like
yes,
it is like a triptych of stories and the way that they sort of all fold in on each other. It's just one of those like perfectly written screenplays where everything is in its right place and all of the emotional moments pretty much work because of the characters' relationships to each other, to their dogs, and then their struggle in the city. It just makes for a wonderful viewing experience.
yeah, I could not agree more. I really like that classification as well. Yeah, the writing it does feel like classical. Speaking of dogs, next I have An American Werewolf in London. Really,
I don't have that.
I love how surreal the movie is at times, and just draws you into this this character like a tourist in London, and the subtext of the movie is a lot to take on as well. Like if you're just watching the movie for plot or character, it's enjoyable, but the subtext is really interesting that it's folded in that way, I would say. The makeup and special effects, or practical effects rather, in the movie are top tier. They are done by oh man, who's that guy?
Rick?
I think so. Yeah. But basically there's a character who is dead throughout a good portion of the movie, and so like he appears like with part of his face and body like mangled, and it just looks so realistic. Yeah, this movie is iconic, and it's a really fun. I think we watched this when we were at the cabin actually, which was an awesome experience. Kind of a horror movie in some way.
Some way.
Well, it's not like I guess there might be some jump scares, but
This is for sure a horror movie.
oh my god. Okay. I looked up the special effects artist, and the picture that popped up was so unsettling.
Rick Baker?
Yeah. Oh man, the horror.
Yeah, I mean Rick Baker is like the most famous special effects artist in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And this is probably his best, if not most notable work. Which doesn't take away from the brilliantly written screenplay. Written and directed by John Landis. Definitely my favorite film of his. I think just outright his best work.
Mm-hmm.
Self-internalized anti-Semitism.
Yeah. Nazi lizards in a movie with werewolves. Or a werewolf. Yeah. That's what's happening in the dream.
They're just Nazi werewolves.
So, to remember reptiles.
Either way, there's Nazi monsters in his dream.
I mean, they're neither werewolves nor lizards. They're just some confounding. I don't know how to describe them. Holy hell. Oh boy, we got to get out of that page. That's a lot. That's a lot to take in.
They're definitely just werewolves.
I don't see any fur on those bodies.
What?
We got to keep going. We got to keep going. What have you got next?
Antichrist.
Oh, still haven't seen this one.
This is a family-friendly picture by Lars von Trier.
It's definitely not.
It is meant to be what the title says.
Yeah, for all you good Christians out there, probably won't enjoy watching this. Just saying. I haven't seen it, but just
it's not. He doesn't know what he's talking about here. This is a perfectly fine film about a couple who loses their child and deals with grief in a very strange way.
Okay.
Willem Dafoe, Charlotte Gainsbourg. Uh, for those uninitiated with Lars von Trier, he is a controversial director, I suppose.
He most definitely is. There's no supposing about it.
And he lives up to his style in this one. It's shot quite beautifully. There are numerous unforgettable scenes, both visually and psychologically. All-time great performances by both leads.
Is this a movie that you would watch again?
Yeah, I've seen it twice.
Okay.
I wouldn't. I mean, it's not like you wouldn't watch it if you're like in a good mood, I guess.
Oh, nice. Letterboxed. Warning, this film is for adults only. I just skipped over that. Second one. A great first date movie.
Yeah, if you only want to have one date.
It's a good, test. Yeah, I will get around to watching it eventually. Sorry to cut you off. Is there anything more you wanted to say about it?
No, I mean it's hard to pick Lars von Trier movies as favorites because they're all challenging in their own different ways. This one's just probably my favorite. Yeah.
Next for me is Apartment from 1960, a Billy Wilder comedy. I just like how much fun this movie is. Yeah, the dramatic irony, the verbal irony is very choice from a writing perspective and a screenplay perspective. And it's just really fun to be a part of. Yeah, a movie that I probably will revisit soon because it's been a really long time since I saw it.
It's a depression movie.
Great Depression, or it is a depressing movie?
No, it's a very sad movie.
Okay.
So it's on my list as well.
Oh, okay.
Basically for the same reason. I don't know that Billy Wilder wrote this movie. I don't remember. He did. Okay.
And
wrote it with somebody else,
Diamond.
Yeah, some fucking nobody.
Ooh. Just absolutely taking huge pot shots at this Romanian American screenwriter who died in 1988.
And nobody remembers IAL Diamond.
Damn! Shitting on this man's grave.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Lemmon, excellent in this movie. And what's the lead actress's name? She steals the show.
Sorry, I got distracted. My cats are fighting right now.
This is a master class in not owning cats.
I mean, I could have closed the door, but
Shirley MacLaine.
They were very upset. Shirley MacLaine, got it. Fred McMurray is great as well. Yeah, really, really solid movie. What have you got next?
Apocalypse Now.
Same.
Another lighthearted adventure film, similar to Aguirre, Wrath of God.
I was gonna say those two are kind of cousins.
I mean, that's why I couldn't put Aguirre on. Not because they're so similar. The time period and setting of them is different. Obviously, Apocalypse Now is about Vietnam, whereas Aguirre is about the density and inhuman nature of the jungle. Oh boy, we're gonna need to take a break here pretty soon.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I was moving a cat out. Yeah, I love this movie. It also kind of feels mythical in a lot of ways. There's a lot of mythic elements to it. I don't really know how else to describe that, but there is there's multiple frame narratives going on within the movie, and it is definitely it's definitely a lot of it owes to, oh my god, I'm blanking on the book.
The Odyssey?
Not the Odyssey.
Heart of Darkness?
Yes, Heart of Darkness. That's the one.
I mean, it is just a pretty direct adaptation of Heart of Darkness, but because America was doing a Vietnam and not in Africa, that's the main difference. Kurtz is the villain. Kurtz is also more present in the novel, whereas in the movie, It's like the last half hour.
Yeah, and Kurtz's crescendo and the crescendo of the movie is incredible, especially the first time you watch it. My God. Next, I have Arrival.
Same.
2016, Denis Villeneuve.
Dennis.
Yeah, a really,
Man can
really
barely speak English.
No.
Not Dennis.
No.
Not Dennis.
A really emotionally charged movie that centers around basically like first contact between humans and aliens that arrive, but the whole like movie centers around like language and trying to be able to communicate and not ramping things up to war, like having some type of communication between the two. And then the other plot is also between like humans, and that's a really solid. I don't want to necessarily just say love story, but the family dynamic is really well shown. Just close the store. I don't really have too much more to say about it, but
Yeah, it's a great adaptation. Villeneuve, I mean, this is just one of many excellent films directed by him. Knows exactly what he's doing. Creates a perfect harmony of sci-fi concepts, magnificent big imagery. Manages to dabble around with some time travel in this one. Hammers the point home about the connection between time, memory, language, and its importance to our culture and the way in which our shared connection of experience with memory could hopefully serve as a way to transcend the baser instincts of our race as humans and lead to world peace instead of cataclysmic destruction.
it's a great classification. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Villeneuve went on to make Dune, which is, the decrying of the human race and the way in which we will destroy ourselves with jihadism. But that's all right. Moving on. Dune Messiah in theaters 2027.
What about Dune TV show?
That's not like a real thing. So it's like a bad prequel. It's like some Frank Herbert
What's next?
slop.
What we gotta go?
Next is Alhazard Balthazar. Horribly butchered the name, partially intentionally. I just can't say French stuff correctly. Written and directed by Robert Bresson. Tells the story of a donkey named Balthazar as he goes from one master to the other in a terrible tale of mistreatment and sadness.
Oh, it's that movie.
Yeah, great movie. Perfect example of Robert Bresson's directorial style, which is sort of direction by omission. There are a lot of elements that are omitted intentionally. I know you recently watched Pickpocket, which features the same thing. But this, to me, is his best movie without a doubt. I think it's his most emotionally resonant, and the scenes directly omitted create a different level of meaning, both for the characters within and the aforementioned donkey, Balthazar.
Yeah, this is a movie that I have been meaning to watch. Just hasn't happened yet. I have Batman Begins next. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was just gonna say that Balthazar's it's a downer. It's not a happy film.
Gotcha.
Batman Begins, you say?
Yeah.
All right. Why is it one of your favorites?
I really think it's quite underrated, honestly. I think it's able to accomplish a lot with laying the groundwork for who this version of Batman is, really outlining thematically that in life we do fail and we succumb to our enemies, whatever they may take, whatever form they may take. And it is very cliche, obviously, but the most successful people are the people who have grit and who get up.
Why do we fall, Master Wayne?
Yeah, exactly. So that we may rise. So it's been beaten to death obviously, Batman. But I just very much identify with the themes of the movie, and I really like it visually. The score is masterful as well.
Yeah, some of Hans Zimmer's best work, no doubt.
I also just want to say that I appreciate how much of the groundwork they lay with them going to like Tibet and the very remote regions, because that really adds that extra sort of like layer to Batman and to the story in general.
Yeah, I don't have this on my list, but
if I were to do the list, probably like next month, it might not be on there because I would probably focus on other movies. But yeah, I just really like it.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a great movie. There's lots to praise about it. I mean, good action sequences with better special effects. I really like the miniatures used to make the scale feel a lot bigger than the budget was at the time. Although, this was Chris Nolan's like last movie before it was just, give him $100 million and see what he does.
What do you have next?
I got Barry Lyndon.
Okay, this did not make my list, even though I do really like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's grown on me. Continues to grow on me. Just, I think a magnificent work of art. Really well directed, perfectly shot. Just shot with a painterly quality like none other. The tale of Barry Lyndon itself is a cautionary one about the downfalls of following orders, trying to fit societal expectations, having ambition, but not necessarily the will or the patience or the determination to achieve what you want, which leads to resentment, failure. Yeah, don't have too much else to add. It's very slow paced, but sometimes that's what you need.
I very much like this movie. If I probably went super deep, I would swap it with Batman Begins, honestly. I also just saw a movie on my list that I don't want on my list anymore. And I'm swapping it with 8.5 because I forgot about 8.5.
What is?
Blue Velvet. It's gone. It's
Oh.
not on the list anymore.
Get absolutely wrecked, David. Get absolutely wrecked.
Yeah.
Screams in Lynch.
Yeah, I think the one issue with the movie is that, well, not with the movie, with myself, is I just don't remember it very well for whatever reason.
Blue Ribbon.
And
you remember that shit?
Honestly, no. Like I barely remember. Like I remember the plot, and I remember liking the movie, but I just think I like 8.5 more. Yeah, sorry, just to derail that conversation, but I didn't want to get there and have it on the list.
Fair enough. I mean, for me, American Beauty is the one that I would possibly swap with Blue Velvet. I think they're very similar. It's just a manner of like Lynch's peculiarities and need to have Dennis Hopper be a maniac. I think the amount of time given to Dennis Hopper takes away from telling a better story. And ultimately, that's the only reason I like American Beauty more.
That is actually the one thing I remember from that movie is like I remember just feeling very like jarred with Dennis Hopper. Like things didn't quite like mesh well.
I think he's a great villain. It just it doesn't all quite like it's a great movie, but
Yeah, exactly. God, I'm just like thinking about Liam Neeson's at the end with the train car, and it's hurting me to have that on there over Barry Lyndon, but for Batman Begins, it's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna stick to my guns.
Flies away, the miniatures explode. Just I mean, that ending scene's got the garage with the miniatures. It's great.
Yeah, I know, but having Batman Begins over Barry Lyndon is like pretty funny.
I'm not making a necessary quality distinction between the other. I like Barry Lyndon more.
Right. I'm playing around with which one I like more. I've seen Batman Begins more times, but I also literally only just watched Barry Lyndon like 2 months ago and loved it. I'm gonna stay with Batman Begins. Sorry. Next I think it's my turn, right?
Yeah,
What movie did you just say? Barry Lyndon, right?
Barry Lyndon.
All right, Big Lebowski.
There's a man. There's a man.
Do you have to swear so much? The fuck are you talking about?
But your way, dude.
I like your style. Yeah. I think about this movie way too often for it to not be on my favorites list. Literally every single scene is iconic. I cannot recommend this movie enough for anyone to watch. It explores all aspects of humanity, and it just is raucously gallivanting around. But it also has depth as well. Like it's not just like a masturbatory expression of like hilariousness.
No, though it does contain plenty of that.
Right. Like it's far greater than the sum of its parts. Like way, 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 way greater than the sum of its parts. This
Yeah, I
movie
mean,
just
on the
makes me
surface level, it's just like a pastiche of 50s film noir.
dressed up in weed smoking man who needs his rug back.
Suppression will not stand, man.
I can think of nothing better. The writing is some of the greatest writing of dialogue ever. For how realistic it is and for also just how funny it is. Like the Coen brothers have such a grip on the like live wire of like how people talk and also like how funny it is the way that certain people talk. What's going on over there?
Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. This movie just makes me so happy. It gives me so much hope every time I see it. There's something about it artistically that just makes life. It reminds you just how fun life is, honestly.
Good night, sweet prince.
I think probably like in our conversations that we have on the phone, we probably make reference to this movie like line wise half the time in phone conversation. That's how relevant it is. Anyway, we could go on and on and on about the Big Lebowski forever, but what's up next?
Blazing Saddles. Wait, no. Oh fuck, I skipped one. We'll go back to it.
I assume you have this movie, The Big Lebowski.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes, I do.
So what's up next?
Blazing Saddles. I skipped one, but I'll circle back around.
Okay. Speaking of funny movies.
Yeah, two comedies. I don't have many comedies on here, so we're getting them out of the way real quick. Yeah, the perfect satire of the Western, directed by Mel Brooks. And I think his funniest movie, but a great examination of the Western and some of the racial undertones for why some people may not enjoy Westerns, particularly African Americans who didn't get to fully participate in the classic Old West.
Where the white women at?
Exactly. Super funny, really meta. The humor is basically R-rated to the point where this is not the type of thing we could make today.
No.
But the plot is completely ludicrous and unimportant. Mostly, I think this pales in comparison in many ways to The Big Lebowski, which is so much better written, particularly because the Coens had a deeper message they were trying to get across with The Big Lebowski than Mel Brooks's message with Blazing Saddles, which was let's just make a big fun picture.
They almost feel like completely different like expressions of like art. Like one feels like a painting and one feels like
pie in the face.
Sure, yeah. Like they like to call them both movies is really wild to think about because they are just so different. I think I like Blazing Saddles a lot, but I just like don't find myself wanting to watch it very often. There's something about the last like quarter of the movie that gets a little too like Family Guy-ish with some of its bits where
yeah, I know what you mean.
It just like goes on too long for me and I'm like, okay, all right. That's That's a lot. Enough Mal.
Mongo just pawn. Game of life.
What was that?
Nothing.
I literally couldn't understand.
Mongo just pawn in Game of Life.
Yeah, it's a really funny movie though. If you haven't seen it, check it out for sure. I have Blade Runner next.
I don't have that.
Very influential sci-fi noir film which most people have probably seen. But yeah, it's just a good sort of adventurous sci-fi movie that does really well with its world building, that has been chopped and screwed, cut to pieces, redone all sorts of different ways. Very influential movie. Yeah, I don't really have too much more to say about it, but I still enjoy it to this day.
Yeah, I mean the atmosphere and the set design alone are excellent, extremely memorable. It's just a perfect mood.
Yeah.
Then the monologue that takes you home at the end is the stuff of legends.
I was gonna say Tears and Rain. Holy shit.
Unfortunately, everything in between doesn't quite pay the bills for me, but
I get that. I do get that.
Like basically the same way that like I'd acknowledge that Blazing Saddles kind of falls apart at the end. I think Blade Runner is just not they just couldn't get the middle part right.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The whole like bullshittery with the Tinker Toy guy, like my brain turns off a lot in that part. What have you got?
Belle de Jour.
Nice.
Written and directed by Louis Buñuel. Written with Jean-Claude Carrière. They successfully wrote a number of films together, all directed by Buñuel.
What did you like about it?
Where to begin with this movie? This is one of several Buñuel movies on my list. Louis Buñuel is a Mexican man who eventually had to flee South America and spend the latter half of his career making films in Europe. Because he makes controversial films, to say the least. He's a surrealist and a sex pervert, and this would fall into the sex pervert category of his movies. They are psychological examinations of sort of psychosomatic behavior and ailments, which for the mid-60s was people were not ready for that, especially the people of South America, which is why he was run out of Mexico. I mean, he was making movies in the 30s that people were like, you gotta stop, Louis. You can't do this. But Belle de Jour is about like a housewife who is sexually unfulfilled by her husband, so she decides to become a prostitute to fulfill her fantasies, which become increasingly extreme. It's very surreal. It's very trippy. Like all of Buñuel's later period films, basically starting with this one, moving onward, they're like perfectly shot. The colors are really vibrant. But if you're not paying close attention, they kind of twitch and move around, and it becomes hard to distinguish between the dream world of the fantasies of the characters, their actual dreams, and the objective reality of the narrative.
Yeah, that makes sense based on the other Buñuel films I've seen. I have loved everything I've seen by him. I just haven't watched this yet. It's also worth noting that in my estimation, one of the most beautiful like people to ever live, Catherine Deneuve, is in this. Just she's in a number of movies at this time that she's just very striking.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I haven't seen it, so I don't have anything to say about it, unfortunately. But I'll see it soon.
Yeah, great. Just a great, pretty funny sex pervert art house comedy. And to be clear, it's not that graphic because this was from the 60s. It's
right. I was gonna say it's not a porno. But it's speaking of art house sex perv. Next movie is called Blowout by Brian De Palma. Not that Brian De Palma is that but the like opening sequence of the movie makes you think that you're like gonna watch like some weird like slasher flick, and then it's like not bad at all. Yeah. So this movie is awesome. It really blew me away when I watched it. It's by no means a perfect movie. Like I don't think it would be on my like top film list, but it is the sound mixing of the movie, which is like a critical aspect of the movie itself, is expertly done. The end scene also like really hit me, which I think like made up for like lost ground in some way with some of the other scenes. And it like really surprised me. Like I kept trying to like enjoy what I was watching, but then also like figure out what was going to happen at the very end. And it just presented it in a way that I would have never thought of, with the shot itself as well as everything that was going on in it. So yeah, I liked its like noir aspects. I liked some of the comedy that was sprinkled in, but yeah.
Yeah, great performance by John Travolta.
What have you got next?
Before we move on, I wanted to mention there's Blow Up, Blow Out, and The Conversation, which are all really similar, and I couldn't pick between which I like the most, or even to include one of the three on here. I don't know. Blow Up is that an Italian movie? The Conversation, like the end of Blowout though, is phenomenal. Like the climax with the fireworks and then just sort of dejectedly returning to life as it was.
Mhm.
But yeah, great pick. I got Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia.
Shit, I don't have this one, but great choice.
An absolutely unhinged Sam Peckinpah movie about a maniac who is tasked with bringing the head of Alfredo Garcia to like a criminal. And just this crazy guy played by Warren Oates essentially just rampages across the Mexican countryside, drinking and laying with women and shooting people before a crazy shootout at the end. My favorite of all of Sam Peckinpah's movies. Perhaps not the most unhinged, but certainly one of the ones that feels like it strikes the tone between his more drunken romantic moods and his very brutal view of life. He was a crazy person, but a very talented filmmaker.
Yeah,
Skipped
this
another fucking movie.
this movie just makes me think of like late summer nights, staying up, just like having a movie on in the background while like just talking deep into the night. Yeah, awesome, very fun movie to watch. I have Brazil next. Terry Gilliam.
Same. I skipped over it accidentally.
Terry Gilliam coming back. I actually like this movie more than Blade Runner because I think it has more to say, and I also just enjoy its Kafka-esque nature. I'm drawn to Kafka in a lot of ways just because I think that's how I have made sense of the world more, and I like very much identify with those ideas. So yeah, devastating movie. Oh my God. Really, really, it's crushing in a lot of ways. But it's a masterpiece, honestly.
Completely agree.
Casual Robert De Niro as well.
Yes, what is he, like a plumber? What is his?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a plumber. It's just like wild that he is in this movie. Out of nowhere, he's in there.
Yeah, I mean it's the movie is if like Kafka wrote Brave New World as a comedy after watching Blade Runner. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's also just like a really incredible fake out that your mind is just like it's like disbelieving, but you want to believe. Like your mind is like, nah, 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 but your heart's like, yes, yeah, please let him be okay, let him be free. I don't want to say too much more about it, but yeah, it's got to be on the favorites list for me.
Yeah, great movie. Very paranoid, dark humor. I love the sets. I think it achieves some balance between the feeling of despair and discomfort in Clockwork Orange while also maintaining some of the like cyberpunk-esque mood of Blade Runner.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good classification.
Next one I have is The Brood,
Still haven't
directed
seen this
by
one.
David Cronenberg. Certainly not amongst Cronenberg's most famous, infamous, or most talked about films, but one of my favorites. It's hard for me to pinpoint why I like it so much more than stuff he's made like The Fly. There's something about the direction of this one, uh, mixed with the writing style, which I don't want to talk too much about for the sake of spoiling it, but it is less extreme a body horror movie as many of his more infamous works. Um,
Damn, this looks like it's in concert with Rosemary's Baby.
Similar themes for sure. Yeah. Um,
Pavow actually has this rated as 5 stars. Uh, Jose's friend. Damn, I really gotta watch this.
oh yeah, excellent, excellent movie. Yeah, it's if Rosemary's Baby uses the fear of childbirth as the primary metaphor to sort of have the Mia Farrow go through extreme duress, then this movie is kind of about like how the dissolution of a marriage leads to horror in the face of trying to raise a child alone.
Gotcha. I'm trying not to think about how we're only 25 movies in on my list.
I mean, I assume anybody listening to this is just going to be all in, or they just want to see a list or something. You know, I who knows?
Yeah, we will have the list out, but I have Breathless next, another Jean-Luc Godard film. Yeah, I don't want to say it's the quintessential French New Wave movie, but it hits every single aspect of that movement.
Yeah, it's definitely the like precursor, the powder keg, the one that helped really launch the thing as an art movement. What do you like about it?
I was gonna make a comparison to like Seinfeld, where people say like, "Oh, it's a show about nothing." Like the movie on the surface doesn't really feel like it's presenting that much, but it is a philosophical treatise in a lot of ways on like everyday life, but then also like the absurdities of life and responding in kind to life absurdly and enjoying life for what it is, but then also devastation, like tragedy taking place amidst all of that. Shots are amazing. It's beautiful. You know, lots of French people walking around in black and white, smoking cigarettes, cafes, Champs Elysees. Yeah, iconic places, cinematography, acting, writing. Yeah, the times it clearly goes off script are well placed, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. It's not one of my favorites or anything, but it's definitely like the rawest of Jean-Luc Godard's like existential examinations of trying to make your way in a very modern Paris, France. I've got The Cabin in the Woods.
Oh shit. Starting in on the seas.
Seas, that's right.
I do not
Uh,
have this.
uh, Kind of what this is to me like the next chapter in horror film history after like Scream in terms of being able to make a movie that is both the next evolutionary stage in the slasher genre while also picking apart very scientifically the formulaic nature of the horror genre and the slasher genre by proxy, but having a much larger reaching goal and message, which it does accomplish by the end, where it does not allow the audience to simply get away with you know,
Just watching a movie mindlessly.
Yeah, mindless consumption of violence perpetrated towards hot teenagers.
It's a good
Really,
classification.
really excellent script by Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard.
This movie goes over most people's heads.
Maybe. I mean, it's very on the nose with the way in which it chooses to break the fourth wall and be sort of a meta-analysis of the genre that it is in.
That's why I think it goes over people's heads. Because they're like, oh yeah, that's funny. Oh, I see what they're doing. I see what they're doing here. Oh, look, all the monsters are free. I get it.
Right. I mean, it's a movie that it's one of the few that is critical of what it is doing while enjoying what it is doing and then calling you out for it, which is something that amongst modern day successful big budget directors, really only like Quentin Tarantino has gotten away with. In a similar way to another entry on this list later, basically does exactly the same thing for the war genre rather than the horror comedy genre.
Yeah, it's not one of my favorites, but I certainly enjoy it.
All right, what do you got?
Bronson next.
Bronson.
Yeah. I like the darkness of this movie and also the frivolity, I guess you could say, that this movie is. Speaking of breaking the fourth wall, who better to have that than Tom Hardy as a Moira? Yeah. His stage presence in this movie is incredible.
Pseudo autobiographical fever dream, surreal nightmare. I don't even know how to classify Bronson. It's a great movie.
Yeah, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. Man, it's a great movie. Yeah, I don't really have too much more to say about it, but it's enjoyable and it's fun and also violent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, undeniable performance by Tom Hardy. Moving on, I got The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Nice. Still haven't seen this one.
Probably the oldest movie on my list.
Really?
It's from 1921, so I don't think I have anything from before that.
Damn. I did not realize it was that old. I thought it was like from the 40s.
It was very old movie. From the silent era, it's a German expressionist horror movie, which means it has an extremely elegant, if not outright dramatic use of shadows and set design, very common in the German expressionist film movement of the 1920s and 1930s. As a silent film, obviously it can be a little bit campy at times because, the special effects are not, seamless the way they are now. But by and large, it still works as a very creepy movie. And all of the elements for something that was made 100 years ago hold up today. It's still pretty influential. We're still getting movies that in some ways are forced to pay homage to it, as it is the first kind of the first like zombie movie in a sense.
Oh wow.
And certainly the best in my estimation, German expressionist film from the era.
Really? No Nosferatu?
I had Nosferatu and then I removed it in favor of this one, which I like more. It's close, but
that's awesome. Yeah, I still need to see the new Nosferatu. I definitely now I'm way more interested in watching this movie than I was before, so I just moved it up on my list of watch. I have Bullet next. Nice Steve McQueen, 1968 action movie. I know we have kind of talked offline and probably online about, or on air about, car chases and how in contemporary movies car chases really turn our brains off.
Heartless trash.
Yeah, it's just they usually are really bad with CG or green screens, or they're just not engaging, honestly. The editing is also usually pretty bad. And it's good in this. It's very fun. Really, really blew me away, honestly, watching it. I remember like reading up on the movie and being like, oh, it does like all of this like groundbreaking car chases, and I wasn't expecting it to hold up as well as it did. So that's why it's on there. I'll probably revisit it soon.
Next, I've got Children of Men.
I still haven't seen this one.
Directed by Alfonso Cuarón. I think it was written by a whole team of people. This is a great movie with a big cast of famous people about humanity's struggle with faith and uncertainty in some sort of dystopian future where babies are no longer born. So the future of humanity is sort of up in the air because women don't get pregnant. A career-defining performance by Clive Owen. A lot of great sort of cameo performances, smaller performances. Really well directed. The script is really tight, and you can tell that this story had been worked on for a long time, probably by a number of different people. There's something almost biblical about it, which makes for an interesting viewing experience because it is sort of set in a war-torn post-apocalypse world. But yeah, I can't recommend this movie enough. There's a few action scenes kind of to keep the ball rolling, but by and large, there's just a lot of scenes of suspense, fear, almost espionage. But yeah, love it. Great movie. Powerful ending.
I'm definitely gonna have to watch this one. I've only seen good things about it, only read good things about it. Yeah. Speaking of a war movie, Casablanca, I have next. An all-time classic from 1942. Yeah, really well directed, iconic lines, shots, beautiful in black and white. It just sweeps you away. It's been talked about to death. I don't really feel like saying too much more, but it's every person who has seen it, I think, has taken away something good from it. Some value will be added to your life in watching it, whether just because it's beautiful or moving or yeah, it's just a great piece of art.
So why is it one of your favorites?
I think it like really there's something about a lot of like older movies from the 40s, 50s, 60s that kind of like slows me down and reminds me of what life is all about and not getting too caught up in either like money or like career or like anxiety of like what am I doing with my life. And I don't necessarily think that's like a message from the movie, but just because of the plot of the movie, I think there's some like meta commentary there about taking control of your own life and like just seeing it unspool. The pacing, there's something about the pacing of the movie that I very much appreciate. Like it never feels like it's rushing to an end or to some type of like big culminating message. It just feels like it's like unraveling very organically, and I really appreciate that from a lot of like older movies. And I think that this one is like a pinnacle piece of those pieces of movies.
Yeah, fair. I mean, it is just like a perfect screenplay.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not trying to rush too much through this. If I feel like or if you feel like I didn't accurately give you a reason.
No,
I'm glad you asked.
No, because at first you were just saying like, oh, everybody knows this is great, so I figured I'd just ask and just get a little.
Yeah, because you're right. This is not our top films. These are our favorite films. So,
I mean, there's basically no difference. I guess the main difference would be that like Citizen Kane isn't on my list here, but it's hard to say that it's not one of the 100 best movies ever made. It's just that's not one of my favorite movies. It's fucking boring.
yeah,
The technical precision of the film doesn't necessarily land for me, and the meme of Rosebud just no longer has any emotional weight because it has been diluted by 80 years of pop culture failure. Moving on. Chinatown. Speaking of classics, the next one I've got is Chinatown.
Same. That's my next one.
Excellent. What do I got to say about Chinatown? Another great screenplay, just a story that does everything it needs to do. It feels like it checks all the boxes of presenting you with an excellent mystery that unravels slowly, and by the time you have figured out what's happening, just like Jack Nicholson's character in the film, you are disgusted and frustrated. The ending leaves a lump in your throat and a pit in your stomach. It is not a happy movie. Uh, Basically just decrying some of the darker nature of man and the corruption of the police and the corruption of the wealthy and their ability to basically do whatever they want, all set in the bright sunny skies of California.
Yeah, I had to actually like go in and look up shots of the movie because I knew it wasn't in black and white, but there's something about the movie that feels like it's in black and white. The coloration is amazing, honestly. One of the most I know we probably are saying this for a lot of these movies, but like one of the most beautifully shot films, like from a craft perspective. Yeah, in the same way that The Big Lebowski is a fun noir, this is like a very like serious noir. Like it does have fun at times, but it is like pretty like self-serious, which I appreciate that the tone, like everything is working in concert with this movie, and it just feels like you're watching a book. Like I don't know how else to explain it. Like it very much feels like you're just like really moving through chapters of a story expertly.
I think that's just the perfection of Polanski's craft as a director.
Yeah.
His ability to make a movie that unfolds seamlessly in how it is able to deliver you a story completely, really without much need for expositional dialogue as images. What do you got next?
I have Close Up next.
Same.
Oh shit. Wow, we are right on pace here. This movie is one of those movies that like I remember like as I'm watching it just like wondering to myself, is this a like bad movie or like is this a good movie? Like just kind of being really thrown in a lot of ways and wondering to myself. And then I remember like coming back into the movie while I'm watching it and just being like, stop trying to judge the movie. Just like let it unfold. It's a very, very crazy concept for a movie. I think you would do a better job of explaining conceptually what it is.
It is a pseudo neo-realistic autobiographical courtroom drama directed by Abbas Kiarostami, who makes a lot of neo-realistic documentaries, which basically just means he will find a news story of some event that he thinks is unique, and then he will go and attempt to recreate the events of the story with the people that it happened to. So he read a story about a guy. Kiarostami is an Iranian filmmaker. So he hears about this story of this guy who basically defrauded a family by claiming to be a famous director and then like wasting their time because he wanted to write a movie about them. And then he had to go on trial basically for committing fraud. So Kiarostami reads about this, and then as the real trial is happening, Kiarostami films the trial. So he inserts himself into the real story to create a fake story, thus making a new real fake story, which then unfolds as its own story. He's done this with a bunch of other crazy movies. What's the other one? It's called A Taste of Cherry or Cherry Trees. I forget the name of it, but definitely check out his movies. Close Up is my favorite of the ones I've seen so far. Some of the other ones get a bit darker, but this one is like more coherently told, but very emotionally impactful ending, which is certainly not worth spoiling.
Yeah, I almost just ruined it. The end by saying what happens. So I'm glad you said that. No, I added I think all of his big movies to my watch list after watching this because yeah, it really blew me away. In a similar way to Breathless, where it just feels like it's like, you know, people talking and doing things. this movie is not, it's not impatient at all. Like it just like allows things to happen and shows it very realistically. But then once you know the fact that like it's the guy who's playing himself based on what he did, and they literally have like the real footage from the trial. It
No,
really,
it's not a real footage of the trial. It's Abbas Kiarostami in the real trial, interrupting the trial to shoot the movie about the trial.
Oh, that's right. But isn't that footage from the trial?
I mean, yes, but like he changed the outcome of the trial by being in the trial.
Yeah. Right. You're saying it's much deeper than I was initially presenting it, because yeah, he inserts himself in there. There's just so many different layers.
It's equal parts an examination of the delusion caused by someone who has dreams they can't achieve, as it is a love letter to filmmaking, as the two converge at the same point in time in Iran.
Yeah, definitely recommend. Strong recommend. Next, I have. Wait, I said close up, so you're next.
A Clue.
I do not have Clue.
Oh, Clue. Ridiculous schlockfest. Hilarious movie. If it's not clear, I like love the murder mystery / haunted house genre, and this is right up that alley. It features a top of the line Tim Curry performance as the butler.
Oh my God.
Who does the murder. Yeah, I mean, it's just funny. It doesn't take itself seriously whatsoever. It trolls you by having multiple endings. Numerous moments that just make me laugh out loud. It's unclear if I like this movie more from a sense of nostalgia or because of how little it really cares about presenting you with like a high quality movie. And in the process of doing so, I think creates a really high quality screwball comedy.
Yeah, and it's also like deconstructing the murder mystery while also like laughing at the audience and itself. God damn it. And I'm watching the trailer on mute, and it's utterly ridiculous. Ludicrous storyline. Casting is immaculate.
Madeline Kahn, Christopher Lloyd, Tim Curry, obviously, Michael McKean. Yeah, a lot of greats in this one. It barely beats out Murder by Death, an equally absurd pastiche of a similar genre. But instead of being about, the board game Clue, it's like, what if we took every famous fictional detective and put them into a house with Truman Capote?
Murder by Death, you said?
Yeah, Murder by Death.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess this is also hopefully fun for the audience, because they're getting other movies in tangent with our favorites. I really need to go to the bathroom.
All right, well, pause. We've done another hour here.
All right. Okay. So next up is Come and See. Your video just ran away. Come and See is a 1985 war film from Hungary, and it is the most devastating depiction of war on a person I've ever seen. And it is also the reason why there you are. Why
cutting in and out.
It is also why I don't really find myself interested in watching many more war movies, not just because the movie is so good, but also because of how devastating it is. So from that perspective, whenever I do watch a war movie, I find myself getting frustrated with how romanticized war is, and also how romanticized a soldier's experience or the other people caught up in the sweep of war is. So yeah, this movie is haunting. There's no other way of describing it, and so much so that I definitely find myself not ever really wanting to watch it again. But yeah, it is a favorite of mine for that specific reason.
If Apocalypse Now is like the perfect American spiritual film about war, which dabbles in anti-colonialism and obviously, sort of throws shade on, American exceptionalism and manifest destiny and our own attempts to create war through this lens that is, meant to be bigger than itself and is mythologizing it. Come and See is the perfect Russian encapsulation of war. The cold, bleak brutality, the acceptance for things that is, the absolute death of love and innocence, told perfectly. Yeah, I mean it is one of the most devastating films I've ever seen, with a lot of very real elements of war, to the point where the filming of it was not safe for the actors because director Elon Klimov was like, just shoot live rounds at them. Use real mortars.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does a good job of like hoodwinking you as well into just like, oh yeah, this is a war movie, all those other war movies you've seen, and then it takes you to a place that is inescapable, which is what war is. Not
Yeah,
for the faint of heart.
I couldn't agree more. The best war movie ever made, with Apocalypse Now, for me, probably being number two, and really not even close. The Come and See, takes the rise, the Flight of the Valkyries scene and the bombastic nature of American war, and turns it on its head. The death of the cow, the multiple mass slaughters, and then just culminating in the ending, chilling stuff.
Yeah, and that's why it's on my favorite list, just because of how much of an effect it has had on me. Like I said, to the point where I don't even find myself wanting to watch another war movie. But
This
yeah.
podcast sponsored by 1917. They did it in one shot. All right, moving on. I got The Conformist. Il Conformista.
I also have that. Bernardo Bertolucci's Il Conformista.
Mm-hmm. A very different take on sort of World War II era Europe, this time in fascist Italy, where a conformist, aka collaborator, who works with the Italian Secret Service to infiltrate and attempt to assassinate an Italian national living in Paris, runs the gamut of sort of surrealist Italian imagery, love triangles, romantic scenes of dancing, his friendship with the blind people, his backstory. It all works together. The writing does, with one of the great modern Italian directors, Bernardo Bertolucci, who did have some crossover success with Hollywood. This is by far my favorite of the films because I've seen, and I mean, it lives up to its title as The Conformist, a complete denunciation of people who are cowards with no backbone. And no matter how much you're able to empathize with them because of their position in life, the film refuses to let the protagonist off the hook for his role in the rise of fascism in Italy, which is in and of itself a fascinating period of time of violence between socialists, anarchists, and the fascists who ruled the country for the better part of 25 years.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add, but I absolutely love this movie. From a visual and storytelling perspective, it is like you could very much you could easily put this on in the background and just love just watching it without sound. Its fingerprints are everywhere, from the Coen brothers down to I don't even know. Just the way that the shots are framed are really beautiful. Same with the camera movement as well. A lot of geometry, and like geometrical one point perspective shots in this. I just recently showed The Tragedy of Macbeth with my students, and like, since that's in black and white, it's very reminiscent of this movie as well. Actually, there are a lot of shots that look similar.
And I do know the Coens, particularly Joel Coen, a big fan of The Conformist.
That makes sense. I didn't know that to be true, but it doesn't surprise me at all.
There's an interview I saw them do in the 2000s where I think they said, like, every time we finished editing a movie, we would watch The Conformist just to make sure we weren't being cowards or anything.
Damn, that's
And
awesome.
it's a visually great movie.
I'm going down many rabbit holes right now of movies in the background. Most recently, something I googled Bernardo Bertolucci, which also then popped up a photo from his movie The Dreamers, which then made me Google Dreamers to see Michael Pitt because I'm watching Boardwalk Empire. Yeah, sorry, trying to let the audience in on just how all of this shit connects. And like, I don't know, from like a history perspective as well. Like, I just think it's really cool seeing like the evolution of film, but also like how impactful certain people are, and then like you also remember that like people are like rubbing elbows with each other, or they happen to see some 1930s movie which influences their own perspective and philosophy on filmmaking. Yeah, The Conformist, I cannot recommend enough. I really really like this movie for its messages, its beauty. Oh man, I have Cool Hand Luke next.
Same.
This movie it takes itself seriously and then also doesn't take itself seriously, and like really takes a pause to laugh at itself, as well as being like a deconstruction of prison and like American society in a way, being rather imprisoning, you could say. But there's a lot of like memorable scenes from the movie as well, and the shots are expert.
Yeah, I mean, there were a few movies I was going to put on instead of Cool Hand Luke, and I ended up choosing it sort of as my favorite movie about like, the one man who takes on like the system. He's the man against them, against I mean, it starts off with him just like breaking parking meters because like he just chooses to go to prison and go end up on a chain gang basically because he no longer can hack it in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end, I mean great movie. I don't want to really spoil anything. It is an older movie. I'm not very familiar with the director Stuart Rosenberg. This was more of a I mean, the '60s in American film were a weird time. It was kind of back to the big studio budget, big budget ways. Lots of writers, not necessarily one coherent artistic vision coming through. And I think this was a movie that not only solidified Paul Newman as a certified star, but I think its rigid approach to individuality was something that would move forward and help a lot of American artists sort of define themselves throughout the '70s.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have Rebel Without a Cause pulled up because I think it's a better movie than Rebel Without a Cause, and it's exemplifying like very similar themes, just dressed up differently with different characters.
Yeah, I chose this over Rebel Without a Cause and The Trial as two movies I was going to include. But there's something about Cool Hand Luke, not only in the way in which Paul Newman and the directorial style helped to make Paul Newman as this character of Luke bigger than life and sort of representing an ideology of individualism over any sense of submission, just someone who wanted to be free but didn't really know what freedom was.
Yeah, and I mean not even just from, I mean, this is a completely separate conversation that we could have, but movies like this are so similar to my own personality, just with having problems with authority, that it's not only a favorite of mine because of the movie, but also because of just like its identity and like my own identity. It resonates in that way as well. I don't remember if you just went or if I did.
You did, so I'll go. I got The Cook, The Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover.
Still haven't seen this.
Written and directed by Peter Greenaway, who is a largely unappreciated intellectual art house filmmaker, and this is by far his most approachable work. Came out in the late '90s, or not late '90s, late '80s. It's essentially as if some sort of rich, Baroque, vivid tapestry of criminals dining together came to life as a movie. I don't want to say too much about it because the the way the narrative unfolds is definitely worth watching more as a surprise than as something that you know ahead of time. I don't know where to find this movie. I've never been able to find it for streaming, but it has a great cast. Uh,
It's not on.
Helen,
It's not on Criterion.
no,
Damn.
no. I don't know why. I imagine it's because Peter Greenaway, as a sort of fringe art house intellectual filmmaker, probably financed this through some like weird third party production companies, and the distribution rights might be up in the air, or for all I know, he himself just owns the rights and is like, screw you, I'm not letting this stream on Netflix.
What
Who
the
knows?
fuck? Ciaran Hinds is in this?
Yeah.
Oh my
Tyrion
god.
Hines, Helen Mirren, the guy that played Dumbledore.
Michael
is-
Gambon.
Yeah, he is. What's oh god, what's the guy's name from Long Good Friday? The guy in it.
I don't know.
Well,
Oh, like the actor?
yeah. The guy, the gangster.
Bob Hoskins.
Yeah, Michael Gambon in this movie is like an even more intense Bob Hoskins.
Oh my god.
Just despicable and unlikable. Ruthless. Great movie. Beautiful, harrowing, crazy ending. Very, very much worth a watch.
I can't wait to watch that. I have Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon next. For similar reasons to what you actually just said. Beautiful movie. It's powerfully surreal, whereas like sometimes you'll be watching a movie that like breaks into something either dreamlike or abstract, and it you find it distracting, or it's just like too attention deficit where you're just like why, where did this come from? Like it matches the tone really well with the movie, I would say. Yeah, it's both like a drama and action movie that takes itself seriously, but then also like clearly stuff is included to represent something metaphorically. Like it's not meant to be taken as literally happening, which I always appreciate.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely the best modern version of that wuxia genre, like The Wire, Kung Fu.
Yeah.
Just in terms of having a big budget and being an international hit. And I think it helped put Ang Lee's name on the map as like a solid director whose career has not quite gone the way I think anyone would have envisioned after this film's release. Yeah, I mean it features legendary performances from
Michelle
all the
Yeoh.
leads. Yeah, Michelle Yeoh and Chung Yao Fat, both of whom had famous careers before and after. Michelle Yeoh, obviously.
Zhang Ziyi also is really good in this movie. The secondary character. I remember her destroying like every scene that she's in.
Yeah, the only reason Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon's not on my list is because there's another movie that I think is just superior in every way that will show up later.
That's fair.
I do think this is a great movie. It's mostly a taste thing, and there's always something about the end of the movie that like leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know what it is.
I don't remember the end of this, but I think, why is this in German? I suspect just Letterboxd has it in German. Oh, it's an alternative title. I suspect which movie it is.
What's the title in German? Because I don't know any of those German.
Im Reich der Tiger und Drachen. In Drachen being the German equivalent of dragon is pretty great. I think I know what movie it is that you're gonna say later, but
it'll come up. We'll get to it hopefully.
We'll get to it.
This one I've got is Cure.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's a great movie.
Atmospheric mystery horror movie directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, not Akira Kurosawa. Is a horror movie close to the turn of the 21st century. Super atmospheric, pretty slow paced and suspenseful. The horror really creeps up on you pretty much with every scene. There's not as many. I've seen very few horror movies that are so deliberately well paced and utilize all of the effects of it, all of the tools available to a director and a cinematographer to build over time before finally getting to a few scenes of climactic horror and then an ending that to me is unforgettable and somewhat confusing. But once you sort of understand the mystery, it can take some of the wind out of the sails because, like another movie later on, once you know the trick, you're less impressed by it. But I can't recommend
what's in the box.
What's in the box?
Yeah,
I
love.
That's not on.
Oh, I thought that's what you were going for. I love this movie. I actually just realized I didn't rate it on Letterboxd, so it didn't come up for me. Yeah, I really like that it starts out one way and then slowly but surely like pulls layers of its mask off before you're just like, oh Jesus, what do we have going on here? I don't like what's happening, but you have to keep watching.
All right, what do you got?
I have The Dark Knight next.
Same.
I love this movie for nostalgic reasons. Saw it opening night. It doesn't really lose its luster over time, despite it being a superhero movie. I definitely like it more than Batman Begins. When I was younger, I liked Batman Begins more, actually. But that may have just been the contrarian in me because everyone loves this movie. But yeah, I mean, this movie's iconic for all sorts of different reasons. The score, Heath Ledger's undeniable performance, the writing, the editing is great. The action sequences are pretty awesome. Its message also is pretty great. Take the deconstruction of American capitalism as well is pretty solid. Being able to weave all of that stuff into a huge budget superhero movie is pretty great. The moral quandaries faced by Gotham citizens as well versus inmates. Yeah, there's all sorts of fun stuff to explore in this one.
I think I said everything I intend to say about this movie in our Christopher Nolan episode, so I welcome you to re-listen to that.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'll open a can of worms or something. The next one I've got is Dawn of the Dead, the 78 version, written and directed by George Romero.
That's a good one.
So, this is my favorite of the zombie movies. George Romero, I think there were 4 other George Romero movies that were sort of left on the cutting room floor for me. I'm a big fan of him in general as a director, but this is definitely my favorite. There's something about the offbeat, almost comical score by Italian rock band Goblin and some of the campiness of the special effects and the action scenes mix really well with the actual horror of the situations that the characters are put in.
Oh, this is the one in the mall?
Yeah, all riding the undercurrent of a deeply anti-capitalistic message about the vapid, dead nature of consumption of Americans. That we are already the zombies. And yeah, I got nothing more to say. I mean, it's at times a silly movie, features great special effects. The opening 15 minutes is probably the best part of the movie, but there are a lot of memorable elements once they reach them all and then do stuff there. This is another one that's hard to find streaming wise. I don't really know why. Part of it is probably just that George Romero made a lot of these small budget movies that didn't get big distribution, but I can't recommend it enough. Unlike the Zack Snyder remake, which I would not really recommend. Moving on, what do you got?
Ken Foree is really good in this.
Yeah.
I also really like this movie. It is pretty funny, as well as it's unsettling because it's a zombie movie. Yeah, I really like this movie a lot. It's not on my list, but I went with 28 Days Later.
Definitely the more serious of the 2 movies.
Deer Hunter is next.
I've got Deer Hunter. Just as we
Really,
both were like, yeah, we're done with war movies. No, we're not talking about that shit anymore. Just war movie.
it's more of like, yeah, I mean, it's an examination of war, but it's not directly about war. It's like also showing post-war trauma, some really, really psychologically breaking scenes in this. Not because of what is shown, but because of like the potential for what could happen or could have happened. Yeah, it's great. I mean, the cast, looking back on the cast, is just disgusting. Like
Calzone Man and
some of the all-time greats in movies at the time and like for the next 50 years.
Merle.
Meryl Streep, Robert De Niro, John Cazale,
Calzone.
Christopher Walken.
Hey, I'm walking here.
Also, for anyone who hasn't seen this movie, obviously watch the movie for the movie, but like seeing Christopher Walken that young, like he was stunning.
Mm-hmm.
He was a really, really handsome guy.
Yeah, I mean the performances by Walken and I mean all four of the leads are good, but De Niro and Walken, particularly in the scenes of war and then the final couple of scenes are unforgettable.
Yeah. Yeah, I only mentioned that about Christopher Walken because I remember like starting to watch it and then remembering that was him, and like it really fractured my understanding of who he is because I always knew Christopher Walken to be that old guy who was a good actor, not like someone who acted earlier. Also, yeah, Meryl Streep would be better in the movie if her character was like actually a character instead of more of a wet blanket. Because she's good in the movie, but like her character isn't really all that important. So she didn't really have as much screen time to do her thing.
All right, next, The Departed.
Yep, I have that as well. You gonna get a quick Departed?
Yeah, I have been known in states of disarray late at nights with large groups of people to go, anybody down for a quick Departed?
May or may not be after the bar. Who knows?
Who knows? And who knows why this movie in particular, this ultra-violent piece of American filmmaking, just resonates deep in my soul about these two goddamn rats and the way in which they rat on each other.
Rats sniveling.
The rat scurrying by at the end. It's just iconic performance by everyone involved.
Yeah, you want to talk about a star-studded cast? Holy shit!
No Bob De Niro though. Kind of embarrassing they didn't get Bob De Niro for this one, but that was in the after times for him.
After times.
Yeah, for Robert De Niro, there's before Meet the Fockers and after Meet the Fockers, or Meet the Parents, which the first one's Meet the Parents.
Yeah.
That is the point in time you can just point to and go, that's when he stopped trying. That movie right there.
Right, when he starts to become that silly grandpa.
Just hacking in every performance except The Irishman, inexplicably, and I suppose Killers of the Flower Moon. But why didn't he get him for The Departed?
Because it was Boston. We don't need a Boston De Niro. I don't know.
Amazing screenplay, classic stuff from Martin Scorsese, being able to juggle 8 plates and working with Thelma Schumacher to edit together this otherwise unfilmable and unwatchable story. Career performances from Matt Damon as the bad guy and Leonardo DiCaprio as the good guy pretending to be a bad guy. Jack Nicholson's last really remarkable performance, I think.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg somehow was the one that won the Oscar. There's all these great performances, and then they're like, yeah, the guy that's really crass is he wins
maybe
the
yes,
Oscar.
maybe no, maybe fuck yourself. Yeah, like he deserves an Oscar for that. I mean, he was good.
You. I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guy. Makes the other guys.
It is worth noting as well, because I didn't know this until recent years, that the movie is an adaptation, or you could say a remake as well, of Infernal Affairs, which you told me about. But I would strongly encourage you to see Infernal Affairs, which narrowly did not make my list. But there are literal scenes ripped directly from it that I chalked up to Scorsese's brilliance. But
Affairs.
what's embarrassing?
Don't have Infernal Affairs on your list?
No.
Neither do I.
It's a great movie. It's a really good movie.
It's no Departed.
Yeah. I mean, The Departed has many culminating messages, which Infernal Affairs also does. But anyway, I just wanted to like mention that movie if anyone hasn't heard of it, because it's a great action detective movie as well.
Departed is actually about a couple of guys who don't want to admit they're gay. Moving on.
Yeah, that's a good summary. Die Hard is next. We did an entire episode on this movie, so
I got nothing to say about Die Hard.
It's a lot of fun. I don't watch it every year for Christmas just because if you're watching a movie every single year, I don't know. I already have every shot in my head, so I would rather spend my time doing something else or watching a new movie. But anyway, I'm not trying to mock people for watching a movie every single year, but it's a great movie. Best Christmas movie. The reason for that is because it's a great movie. Shots, editing, action, tight writing, good performances. Yeah.
The Dirty Dozen.
That's on my list as well. That's next.
Sure.
Why do you like it?
Number of reasons. One, I just have a soft spot for Lee Marvin hamming it up. Two, it's just a great. It's one of those great movies that, I mean, it is technically a war movie. The plot centers around the U.S. military takes like 12 inmates who are either incarcerated for life or meant to be executed and says, all right, we're sending you idiots on one last ride mission to kill some Nazis. And then they spend an hour training them and teaching them to work as a team. And then they go and they kill some Nazis. The ending is very dark and very bleak because in the course of the mission, the movie goes from a mostly lighthearted with some serious overtones, movie about building a team. And then suddenly it just becomes like, oh, fuck, this is about killing Nazis. Yeah.
And sacrifice.
Sacrifice. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the first iteration of like the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Since it's somewhere in there, it's a borderline like superhero type movie. Because I mean, it had like Lee Marvin, Charles Bronson, Jim Brown, like characters and actors who at the time were larger than life and celebrated as big, like Kiefer Sutherland, John Cassavetes, all legends. I mean, if Suicide Squad's not a direct comparison, then this is just the basis for Inglourious Bastards.
I was just gonna say that. Damn, I found a movie.
Terry Savalas, other legend.
Oh yeah, I found a movie that reminded me of another movie, but I won't ever be able to remember the name of it, unfortunately.
What does that mean?
Too many rabbit holes to waste people's time listening to shenanigans in my mind. It's a movie that I think might actually go on my favorites list, but I saw it pretty recently and can't remember its title. A person from The Dirty Dozen is starring in a movie that looks like it. Anyway, next I have Dirty Harry.
Who directed that? Robert Siegel?
Don Siegel.
Don Siegel. I don't have that one.
Yeah. This movie it has a very iconic beginning sequence. I like it for its shots, and also for, I would say, the like groundwork that it lays for further sort of like hard-boiled policemen or detectives.
This is probably like the bridge movie from hard-boiled police guy to like loose cannon wild card police detective.
Yeah,
because the movie does have those elements of like investigation, and like Clint Eastwood's character is like hard-boiled lightly boiled. But then he's also just you're loose cannon and Harry, just shooting people from.
Callahan, turning your badge and gun.
Great performance by Andrew Robinson as the killer, the Moida.
Yeah, and in recent years, I've certainly seen better movies. I do have a bit of a soft spot for Clint Eastwood, and I think that this movie is really influential. So if you asked me in like a year or two, I might swap this one out. Like this one's probably at the bottom of my favorites list, or it's nearing the bottom of my favorites list, just with some of the more recent movies I've seen.
All right. Moving on. Next one I've got is The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie. Another one of those Louis Buñuel, written by Jean-Claude Carrier movies. Just another weird fucking art house Italian, French, Spanish comedy, I guess. The plot is that there's a group of friends, three couples, who just try to have dinner together. They can't get it done.
Those are some of my favorite plots in movies. It's just like boiling it down like, all right, what's the objective? Can't have the objective happen.
Yeah, every time they try to have dinner, there's a disaster. And mostly it is a biting criticism of the upper class, obviously hence the name, the discreet charm of the bourgeoisie. It is a very political film, focused on class relationships, and it features a lot of Buñuel's notable skills as a director. His evocative use of color, his love of surrealism, where it's just completely unclear if it's a dream or waking life. Very, very striking use of light as well. Great movie, really funny. Came out in the early 70s.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch this movie forever, honestly. Shit. I'm going to do a switcheroo because I found the movie I was thinking of, and it is an all-time classic. So I'm eliminating Dirty Harry.
Okay. Pulling an audible.
I can't mention it yet because it comes later, but that's fine.
So Dirty Harry, gone.
Yeah.
No more we hate Dirty Harry on this channel.
Yeah. Nothing good ever came from.
I like Dirty Harry. Dirty Harry's a good movie.
I
have never seen a single sequel to Dirty Harry, though.
I have, and there are diminishing returns.
What is it like? Like what are the sequels called? Like the Deadpool, like Vengeance is Mine.
Dirty Harry, let's get filthy.
Dirtier Harry.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
There's Bassless Harold. All right, what do you got? What do you got?
Holy shit. There's Magnum Force, which is the sequel. Then there's The Enforcer, it looks like. All right, so the first one is Dirty Harry, then there's The Enforcer, then there's Sudden Impact, and then there's The Deadpool.
Got one of them right.
I haven't seen The Deadpool, but I think I saw the other ones. Jesus. From 1983 to 1988, Clint Eastwood really went from like kind of old to fucking old. District 9 I have next.
I don't have District 9. It's on my cutting room floor list.
I think I would probably have Children of Men over District 9 based on what I've heard and based on what I've read about the movie, but I really like this movie a lot for its examination of race. I feel like we talked about this with some other episode we did, but like in having an alien species that is just like unable to be understood like from human beings, we're examining race in a place of displacement where it's worth noting it's in South Africa.
South Africa.
So Saturday, South Africa. So it's able to show like racism through an alien, which I think is done expertly, and it really makes you feel for the alien. and the alien species as well as humanity. So
Yeah, very effective at what it tries to do while world building. I think in a very unique style, like the style of District 9 feels very unique. Uh, I I I think we have talked about this before. Maybe it was just the last time we tried to record these episodes, but I think my biggest problem is with Neil Blomkamp, and that if he had made a single quality movie after District 9, it would probably still be one of my favorites. But given that he continued to work in the same genre, making the same types of movies, and making them increasingly worse, has just sort of led me off which is a shame because it doesn't actually have anything to do with the quality of District 9, which does feature great performance by Charlotte O'Copley, and everything else about it works. The relationship, the script is good, special effects are top notch. I think the messaging, like you highlighted, it's very grimy, bloody, gutsy, dirty. Moving on, I got Donnie Darko.
yeah, what I was gonna say about that movie is, I guess what you're kind of saying is like, dude, you already did it. Like, stop. Like, do something else. Like, you maximized this idea.
More so like taking the same style and then just changing what the themes are. So it's like going from, let me make a movie in this style with this type of technology about racism in South Africa, and then let me make the same thing about like how like class relationships, and what if there were people who lived in the billionaires, what if they lived on the moon in a ring around the moon, and then sentience, what about Chappie? Then it just, he's a hack writer. He's a one trick pony. He's not a good director, and he's a terrible writer. Sorry, Neil Blomkamp. I try not to tear down too much on this podcast, but it's just who I am. Just a mean spirited individual. And Neil Blomkamp. Just moving on.
Donnie Darko, you said, right?
Donnie Darko, yeah.
Yeah, I have it
Speaking
next
of
as well.
one trick ponies, Richard Kelly. Oh, that's not fair to Richard Kelly.
Let's just talk about Donnie Darko.
It's difficult to talk about Donnie Darko and Richard Kelly and not mention. Yeah, this is a great movie from 2001. Think about it, it's that shitty fucking movie now. Yeah, this is a great movie. It really sets a very specific tone. It feels very not bittersweet and not nostalgic. It's like watching someone in a malaise of their own loneliness and depression, finding love and still feeling the same way. And then that is all sort of wrapped around this weird time travel horror plot where he's like stuck in his own dreams, and there's like time travel, and sees himself in the fourth dimension.
Yeah, it really, I mean, to add on to what you're saying, it really showed me that like when I saw it in high school, I thought I understood like what you could do with a movie and what a movie was, and then this movie showed me that you could do so much more. Yeah. So I really liked. Are you still there?
I think so.
My screen froze.
Yeah, my camera is like having trouble. It's focusing and then geeking out, so I tried turning it off to see if that would help.
Okay. Yeah. But anyway, Donnie Darko made me realize like what you could do with movies. So it's also like really emotionally charged as well. A lot of really good acting in it. Jake Gyllenhaal destroys the movie. He's really great in it. Not sure if you're still there.
I'm pretty sure I'm still here.
Okay.
I think the camera is just on the fritz.
Gotcha.
No, I agree that the music really helps. But it's just a nice blend of like teenage angst and depression and loneliness mixed with this sci-fi movie.
Yeah, I think like I know we've talked about this before. I can't remember if you agreed with me or not. But it kind of reminds me of American Beauty in some ways. It definitely is going for a different thing, and I like Donnie Darko more than American Beauty. But we don't necessarily need to compare them. Um,
I think it's the same. If you remove the sci-fi elements from Donnie Darko, which is hard to do, the sci-fi horror stuff, it is the same sort of about suburban malaise. The difference is one is a high schooler dealing with loneliness, and one is a midlife crisis man dealing with the same issue. But it's like it's his family that he's built. And so as that falls apart, it's very different than the high schooler who feels like his life is falling apart.
yeah, and they have obviously very clearly much different endings, much different points to the movie.
Well, they both better not spoil them. Both.
Yeah.
Trying to keep this as spoiler free as possible, just so all these great movies can still be enjoyed by any of the thousands of listeners that we have, tens of thousands.
Yeah. I did just recommend this to a student last week, I think. It's fun talking about movies with students. But yeah, I saw this senior year. It was the first time I watched it, and it's pretty much infinitely rewatchable. I mean, I wouldn't watch it every week, but I would certainly revisit it every couple of years. It's a great reminder.
Check out Richard Kelly's other films too.
Don't. It does have one of my favorite montages, like high school montage with Tears for Fears. Like that is just like a perfect music video within the movie itself.
Yeah, I would agree.
I have Double Indemnity up next.
Double Indemnity, all right. I don't have that.
19...
None of that hardcore noir for me.
1944 Billy Wilder drama. This one might, like, similar to Dirty Harry, actually. This one might be getting bumped depending on if I have my Letterboxd up to date, but I do really like this. I like the psychological aspect to this movie, and I'm a sucker for noir as well.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a classic, not only of the genre, but of that like style of hard-boiled mystery writing. It has all the hallmarks. The femme fatale, the like rich client. That's the one where he like meets the client in a greenhouse, right? And there's it's like the clear glass.
I think so. I'm looking at the IMDb right now, and I actually don't see any of the shots that I thought of this movie. This is definitely the movie I was thinking of, though. Anyway, you were saying the greenhouse?
Yeah, it's just one of the scenes I remember. I remember the first half of the movie much more than the second half, because I remember once the mystery unravels, it becomes a lot more generic in comparison to a lot of the other noir stuff I've seen. I never found it to stand out very much compared to a lot of those 40s and 50s noir films.
It's possible I am thinking of a different movie. We'll see. We'll see as we go along.
All right. Big Sleep, maybe?
No.
Like that one. But
It might be Notorious. It very might well be Notorious.
It's a completely different movie.
I know.
Same year of release, I think. Definitely around the same time.
The issue is that I like curate these lists and then I watch movies like back to back. I think it's Notorious I was thinking of.
Hitchcock one with the mansion.
Yes. Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman. Well, hurts to miss that one. Oh well.
All right, moving on. I got Dr. Strangelove, or How I Stopped Worrying and Learned to Love the Bomb.
Yeah, I have that.
We also just discussed this. We released an episode of talking about Stanley Kubrick recently, so I don't have too much to elaborate on. Very funny movie, triple performance by Peter Sellers. He's excellent the whole time. Great screenplay. Infinitely rewatchable. This one I would rewatch every week. Decries the military-industrial complex, decries war, basically makes a joke out of the fact that we live in a world where at the drop of a hat we could destroy ourselves because we are at heart a silly, stupid people run by silly, stupid men. So it's better to enjoy yourself. Don't let the fluids get you the way they got the guy in the movie.
Yeah, this movie is incredible. I also think its message is rather divisive, where people could just think it's like being nihilistic, but I think it's basically just being like, okay, the world has all of these problems, and there are all of these like big things that can happen and also will happen, and there's really not that much more you can do about it, but just accept it for what it is, in your own mind, without like letting it keep you up at night or becoming depressed or nihilistic.
Yeah, I mean it ends with the song, we'll see you again.
The Wiz Khalifa song,
No.
Family.
All
That's
right.
literally that movie from those. Anyway,
Moving on.
my
What do you
next movie,
got?
speaking of cars, is Drive. Another Winding Refn movie. The last time he will show up on here, that's for sure.
Oh, no Pusher? No Neon Demon?
No.
No Valhalla Rising? Sorry,
Drive is a movie that Drive is a movie with a really great score, an excellent cast. Ryan Gosling hardly says any words in it and destroys cinema with his eyes. And there are some good action sequences in it. Speaking of like actually having like chase scenes, they're like cut down pretty well and perfectly edited. I'm not the biggest fan of slow-mo, but this movie shows or has scenes of slow-mo that are really excellent. The lighting is awesome. Shot selection is good. Yeah,
yeah,
there's
I like
something
it.
magical and beautiful about the movie. Whether or not that's the blend of like romance and violence, which is why I like it, or it's the fact that he like stands up for people who can't stand up for themselves. Yeah, something about that I just very much enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I like most of the performances in the movie. I think it's definitely a style over substance, which I think is part of why it's not one of my favorites. Uh, but every element of it, I think, works by and large.
I would argue that the movie's style is part of its substance, but
In what way?
I think that its style is pushing its like message that much more.
What's its message?
Oh boy. Kind of like what I said, like sticking up for people who can't stick up for themselves and demonstrating violently standing up against people who are violent, taking control of one's life. It like strips things back to the point where I wouldn't say the movie feels low budget, but it's, I don't know, it's not like bombastic, I would say. So like stylistically, I think in a similar way actually to Bronson, Nicholas Winding Refn's other movie I have on here. I think that he uses the style in that movie to also add to the substance of it, like the style of the meta commentary of Tom Hardy, but also the lighting, and color use in both films. I'm not like readily able to define exactly what it is that the style is adding to the substance, but I think that Drive is greater than the sum of its parts.
Hmm.
Like you could just say that it's like really prettily shot and it has good use of color, but I would argue that it is that, and all of that makes it that much more everlasting.
Fair enough.
Whereas like basically as you mentioned, like Neon Demon, which I haven't seen, appears on the surface to just be stylistically a similar movie without so much of the heft to it as Drive is.
I find there to be very little depth in Nicholas Winding Refn's movies, and so the more sparse they are when it comes to an attempt to either lay out some deeper element to a character or plot on repeat viewings, they give me less and less. So for me, Bronson is probably the only interesting thing he's made after Pusher, And while I don't think, like, I think Drive is a great movie, it's just maybe shy of being exceptional, which is it's like the only criticism I have of it. It doesn't help that his follow-up films, like Only God Forgives and Neon Demon, are literally garbage. They're like film negatives of Drive. They have all the
Yeah,
same elements, but they lack a certain soul that Drive has, despite the fact that Ryan Gosling's character on the surface has literally no emotion and no emotional stakes. But it's the emptiness of his performance that then fills in by his actions what is intended to, you know.
yeah, I wouldn't say that Drive is exceptional, but I think what I get from the movie is exceptional.
Okay.
Which is why it's one of my favorites. Because like as a craft, I think it's a great movie. I think it's crafted really well. But I wouldn't say like as a piece of cinema that it is exceptional. Like I don't think it's a perfect movie, but yeah, I don't know. It definitely just feels like it's pulling all of those strings well enough that it does something more for me. So like, I mean, this is the same artistic conversation everyone has about like this is my favorite pair of shoes. This is my favorite painting. Why? Because I have some type of emotional connection to it. Yeah.
All right. Moving on. The Elephant Man.
This is criminal, but I've never seen it.
Crime. Great David Lynch movie about a disfigured man that is treated like a monster and shown around as an exhibit. Kind of like one part Frankenstein, one part Dumbo, all parts emotionally devastating. It's a period piece. It's black and white. I mean, unique even by David Lynch's standards in how reined back it is compared to the rest of his filmography, which is mostly unhinged and free-spirited.
So you would say like it's kind of surprising that this is a David Lynch movie?
I wouldn't even call it a David Lynch movie per se.
Okay.
But it's not written by him the way his other movies are written by him. But it is directed by David Lynch. It's more of like a conventional big studio drama than it is like a David Lynch out in the desert movie. And that's not a comment on Doom. That's just, David Lynch is far out there compared to the average American filmmaker when it comes to, having a plot or engaging the audience. But yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's
fair.
a very emotional movie. Very sad, some excellent bittersweet moments. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, speaking of David Lynch, I have Eraserhead next.
I've got a Eraserhead.
Not being able to rein himself in is this movie. This movie is him just throwing everything out there.
Yeah, take everything I said about Elephant Man, none of that in Eraser. No plot, characters go through these weird atmospheric, like post-industrial spaces. Not much of a screenplay. It's just undeniable imagery, start to finish.
Yeah, it feels like if you were walking around like the MoMA and someone like spliced together like very experimental sort of footage. But like clearly it's all stemming from one person. And
Yeah, I mean
he's
it has a very clear story. You just have to, dip your toes into David Lynch's unconscious to get there.
it's so beautiful. Oh my God.
Yeah, and by proxy, once you sort of start examining David Lynch's work, it helps you try to sort through your own subconscious, and it's what makes a great artist.
Yeah. Cannot recommend enough. It's also a pretty short movie. It's only an hour and a half.
That's how long movies should be. I've already listed multiple 3-hour movies. All right, can we take a quick break here?
Yeah, I got you. Sorry. What were you saying?
I was gonna say, I don't know how long we'll go on this today. Obviously, we're not gonna get through the whole list. I feel like we're not likely to go until it's dark outside, but maybe we get there. I want to at least get to the reveal.
Okay.
You'll see. It's a good reveal.
All right. Speaking of reveals, I've since taken Notorious off and added Cure because I did watch Cure after doing the first run through. So
So, do you have Double Indemnity on your list?
no,
So, nor do you have Notorious.
no,
Okay,
those were switched out for Cure
I gotcha.
because Cure was on my like movies that would go in here, and I'm pretty sure I've never actually seen Double Indemnity.
Okay.
Yeah,
Worth
I
a
don't
watch.
I don't know if you're up or
Yes, we just got through a pair of David Lynch's, and sandwiched in between them, I have Embrace the Serpent, a Colombian film directed by Ciro Guerra, which is sort of my pick instead of Aguirre Wrath of God. It is a sort of fantasy adventure movie set in the Amazonian jungle. As a Danish or Dutch biologist, travels in two different timelines through the jungle in search of a shaman.
what's the name of it?
Embrace of the Serpent.
You've told me about this before.
Oh yeah, I'll rant and rave about this movie to anyone who will listen. It's must watch stuff. 2015. I don't know where you find it streaming.
That's
have a
pretty
feeling
recent.
yeah, it's a newer movie. Yeah, I mean it's I don't know how much I want to say without spoiling it, but it's very good at everything that it does.
Okay. I've seen it come up on my film account on Instagram a couple times that people have recommended. I keep moving up. I'm glad we're doing this episode, honestly, because it's allowing me to move movies up that are on my watch list, which is several hundred movies long, up. Cool. So I have Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind next.
Same.
Yeah, this is really, really well edited and pieced together artistic expression of love and loss of love as well. And it's Jim Carrey in like a dramatic role, which is really interesting to see, and he does really well with it. Kate Winslet too. It's Kate Winslet, right? Yeah, she's really good in this. I just love how ambitious the story is with what it's doing, like abstractly framing the different scenes, because like obviously it's very metaphorical and not meant to be taken literally, but what the metaphors are demonstrating is obviously what's going on in the characters' minds and their emotional scape.
I mean, it's also extremely literal. Like the literal consequences of choosing to erase your own memories specifically so that you don't experience the pain of having a once powerful love relationship that goes away. It's the perfect, like you said, it's the perfect marriage of editing and sort of special effects, which is drawn out over time with the visual imagery of Michael Gondry, the director, and then the wild world of Charlie Kaufman's ideas. And I mean, Carrie and Winslet's performances, both as having great chemistry as a couple in love, and then the sort of explosive falling apart of their relationship with, like, the sort of the antagonists of the film, which is the like company that erases the memories with like Elijah Wood, Mark Ruffalo, and Tom Wilkerson. Yeah, it's like the kind of thing that Black Mirror wishes it was.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, like it's like an interesting sort of like Twilight Zone idea pushed to like its romantic conclusion, like falling in and out of love, examining memory for the value of memory.
I mean, there are two episodes of Black Mirror that this is basically a combination of, but done better than either of them, which is remarkable because one is one of the better episodes of Black Mirror, which is the San Junipero one, which is about a lesbian relationship where their memories are like locked in a data bank, and then the one where it's like the people are able to replay their memories because everything's recorded.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of that one.
Yeah, excellent movie. If you ever are just falling in love, need a reminder of what love is, are going through a breakup, it's a really solid movie for any of that.
Moving on to another one very similar about humanity's relationship with technology, The Exorcist.
Yeah, lovely.
Directed by American great William Friedkin, written by the same author of the novel, William Peter Blatty. This features the battle between a priest struggling with his own faith against Pazuzu, I think, a demon who possesses a little girl and tests the faith of some priests. Great supporting cast performances, wonderful use of editing again to scare the shit out of the audience, both with jump scares, incredible practical effects, very deliberate pacing. Everything works together in this. The script and the story by Blatty works constantly. Friedkin's understanding of the material and ability to sort of make it about the differences between how faith or technology solves a problem like what is possession, and the way in which people put their faith into science or put their faith into religion to try to deal with those things, and ultimately the required sacrifice to defeat something evil from the priest. And
Yeah.
I want to shout out the often unknown Exorcist 3, which is actually a direct sequel to Exorcist 1, written and directed by the writer William Peter Blatty, which I cannot recommend enough.
Shit, you've recommended that to me a couple times, but I'm gonna have to check that out. I am a scaredy cat, so I have quite a number of scary movies on my watch list.
Were you scared by The Exorcist?
Not really.
Then I would not be worried about Exorcist 3 either. I would argue it's even less of a horror movie than The Exorcist.
Gotcha.
But yeah, do you have The Exorcist on your list?
No,
Oh,
I do
okay.
not. I've only seen it once, and my takeaway was that it was a great movie, but that was basically it. Like I didn't really like dig into it that as much. Yeah. I feel like if I watched it again though, I would definitely get a lot more out of it. I think because I think it was a symptom, honestly, of like it being notorious, like as a movie that made people like shit themselves or throw up or like run out of the theater, that I was like, I built it up in my head to be this like great grandfather of cinema. So then when I watched it, I was like, oh, I could see how this was influential, but it's fine. Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite parts of the movie is the stairs and the window situation. So just really incredible.
Watch Exorcist 3.
All right. Speaking of scary movies, Evil Dead I have on here next.
I died.
Which you don't have, I guess, because X comes after V.
I died. No, I don't have Evil Dead. Sorry, I got excited.
God, we really gotta figure out our cabin script. We gotta figure that shit out.
It's Dead by Dawn.
Muerta Diabolica is the translation, not Merta. I thought it was just like shit demon, but it's just the Evil Dead. Ooh, that's a yikes. That's a frightening picture. Thanks, Letterboxd, for that.
Is it the one with the lifting up the hatch?
No. This one I think was from a sequel, but it was just a very scary woman's face. Anyway,
maybe the newest one. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is. Anyway, this movie's a joyride of movie making, and also it's just really hilarious. Like it's just so much fun to watch. Honestly, it's a good movie to get a crew going, get some pizza, sit around and enjoy. Also some great Excellent camera work and practical effects, I might add.
Yeah. All right. I got Eyes Wide Shut.
Same. That's what I have next.
Just every single gosh darn Kubrick movie.
Based.
Chad Kubrick versus Virgin everyone else. Yeah, we just talked about this. It's a very dreamy movie filled with lush visuals, not unlike quite a few of the other movies I have on here that look, I would argue it looks very similar to the Buñuel movies. It's not quite as surreal, but the characters do take on a very surreal element in the way that they sort of are choreographed and moved, which is obviously a direct result of Kubrick's 100 takes per scene methodology for filming. Yeah, just a maniac.
We got to get it right. I feel like we got it right the first 60 times. No, didn't do it right.
Yeah, just an always funny story. Just, I'm a director, Stanley. I know I got it. Are you sure you don't want to get it right? It has like 5 words. It's barely even lines of dialogue. We kind of talked about this one, I think, already. So
we did not talk about the potential ending though that was altered of the movie.
Did we talk about that off air?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was off air that that people suspect that the movie was changed in post specifically because when they were like showing the movie to executives in like a small theater, people outside could hear Kubrick losing his mind on them of like, how dare you change my movie? And then he died like 5 days later.
Shot him with a heart attack gun.
Yeah.
Classic CIA maneuver.
Allegedly, the movie is supposed to end with these two sort of like nefarious, creepy, secret group guys take the baby in the bassinet away from the main characters, which is supposed to represent that they are like offering up their child, which was altered, allegedly.
Would have made for a completely different movie. Would have been a much worse movie, that one that would not make a lot of sense, but it certainly would be a choice.
I don't know. It has more of a statement than the current ending.
What do you mean?
Doesn't it just end with her just saying like, fuck you?
With her saying, let's fuck. Let's get it on.
For another kid?
No, to have sex.
Yeah, I know what that is, but that could also bring children. That's why I'm asking. I'm still hung up on the baby in the bassinet.
Baby in the bassinet. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
That's allegedly how the movie's supposed to end, that they give away their child in the bassinet.
Yeah, that only makes the movie worse. If there was an extensive amount of other footage cut, then yeah, I could see it making sense. But in the current flow of the story, which flows pretty logically as the story that you're being told from start to finish, you would need to add in quite a lot to make that ending make sense.
I think there is stuff that's missing, yeah.
Which is weird, because in the state that it's in now, I think it's an incredible movie that is clearly very deliberately directed, which is why I dismissed that theory as that they butchered this movie about Stanley Kubrick making, something where Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise sell their child into sex slavery.
Moving on to the next movie, which is The Fall by Tarsem Singh.
Tough time.
What?
You're gonna have a tough time moving on here. Tough time.
Why?
Stuck in it.
Okay, we'll go back. My point in moving on is I don't think we'll ever know. Your take is that it's better in its current state. Oh boy.
If it ended that way, it wouldn't be on my list, and I'd have a lot less respect for Kubrick.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
It would go from being an excellently crafted movie to a very strange movie where Kubrick seemed to troll the audience at the end. Just a real Epstein ending. All right. I've moved past it.
So my next movie is The Fall by Tarsem Singh. 2006 version, not the 2022.
Did he remake it?
No, I don't know what this other movie is, but it doesn't look as good. No, this is definitely awful. Anyway, the Fall.
It's like a bad horror movie.
Oh, interesting. That's right. Jonathan Glazer has a short called The Fall as well. Anyway, God, back on point here. This movie it's pretty surreal. And it's really beautiful. Its use of color is very choice. All of those aspects are utilized expertly to sort of fill in as like the imagination of one of the characters who you find out is in a hospital telling the story. So it uses frame narrative. But yeah, I really like this movie a lot. I don't think it's a perfect movie, and it is very stylistic. But yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good.
I'm thinking, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think it examines a lot of similar themes to Forrest Gump, but I think it does it a lot better.
It is certainly a better movie than Forrest Gump. I'll agree to that.
Like instead of it chronicling, like a guy who has special needs who has this fantastical life that you're supposed to just dumb yourself down and believe actually happened. This not because he's special needs, but because like the movie is just like it feels like it's crafted in such a way that you have to have some type of delusion to believe all of these things could have happened to one singular person in Forrest Gump. Whereas this movie does it all fantastically in an imaginative realm with heroes. So like you're supposed to like accept that it's not real, but it's representative of something more. I don't mean to just shit openly on Forrest Gump, but
well, by all means.
I know you're not the biggest fan, but
it's just a bad movie.
What's next for you?
I will circle back around to The Fall at some point. Because I have a movie that's on here that is the reason I don't have The Fall.
Okay.
The next one I have is F for Fake.
That's a good choice.
I just couldn't bring myself to omit Orson Welles because I really like Orson Welles as a director, and I couldn't find anywhere else to get a movie of his in. I tried to get The Trial, it just didn't make it. I tried to get Citizen Kane, it wouldn't take even Touch of Evil. There were other movies that did it better, but nothing does F for Fake better than F for Fake, which is a fake documentary about an art forger who prolifically makes reproductions of famous paintings, which is constantly narrated by a false narrator, Orson Welles, who then at the end of the movie pulls the rug out from under himself while he's pulling the rug out from under himself. There's two Orson Welles on rugs, and he pulls them both at the same time, and then it flips into one Orson Welles flying on a magic rug. It's the best description I can give for it.
Wait, that's literally what happens?
That's figuratively what happens.
Okay, all right. I was gonna say I don't remember that, but that's a good version.
No, I mean literally what happens is he and his partner at the time and the lady who helped him write the movie, Oja Kodar, basically just go off and bang off screen after flipping you off for watching the movie.
I do really like this movie. Don't have it though.
Basically, documentaries are bad and fake. Don't trust them. Not real.
Sorry if you like documentaries, but
there are 2 more documentaries on my list within the next 10 films.
I have Fantastic Mr. Fox next.
All right.
I love the claymation stop motion style, and I really like the writing of the movie as well as the sound. The sound is like really, really crisp, and like all of the characters' voices, I think, are chosen well for their animal counterparts. Yeah, the use of color also I think is just like really beautiful. It's just a beautiful movie. And it's just really enjoyable. I would say it kind of like hits a piece of nostalgia for me with like I don't want to say children's books, but like books that are like well painted or artistically constructed, I guess. It's the best way I could describe it. Yeah. Just an awesome piece of cinema.
Yeah, I like it. I didn't get it on my list here, but I think that movie, when talking about Wes Anderson, that's the one where, including it, everything he made after it is like visually perfect.
Yeah.
Like they're just all visual masterpieces. It's, you know, the stories are more or less hit or miss, but yeah, just it's clearly a great movie. You can just watch it muted.
Please don't, because it's the sound is good in it, like the voices are and everything. But yeah, you're right. You could do that.
All right. Well, we're close to the reveal. I swear we'll get to the reveal soon.
Okay.
The next one I have is First Reformed.
Been meaning to watch this one.
This is that is not the year this came out. It's a 2017 drama film written and directed by Paul Schrader, starring Ethan Hawke as a priest who begins to lose his faith in the face of the environmental destruction of the planet.
What's with you and priests losing their faith?
I don't know. Maybe there's I saw this Ingmar Bergman movies later on here. It's almost like I don't believe in God. The priest falls in love with a pregnant woman and slowly but surely becomes more and more radicalized as he struggles with his belief in God. Great movie, devastating ending. Got a lot of those on here. I love me a very depressing, very emotional ending to a movie. Well written. Ethan Hawke is, I think, at his finest in this. Can't recommend it enough.
Awesome. I moved it up on my list. Next, I think this is the first one of his that we have, actually, surprisingly. Fight Club. We covered Fight Club pretty extensively in the Edgelord Protagonist episode, which is one of our first ones. Yeah. Love that like gritty style. The editing is amazing. The story itself really takes you away. It's one of those movies that is based off of a book, but it's funny that the author literally came out and said that the movie was better than his book. Chuck Palahniuk. Yeah, I mean, it's become like quite memey and misunderstood for its takedown of toxic masculinity, but we kind of have deconstructed that as well by saying that people conflate the takedown for toxic masculinity because it makes it look so cool.
Right. I mean, fundamentally, the movie is, you know, how do young men with no purpose who recognize the failing culture and predominant malaise of our society, what are they supposed to do? And, you know, every time one of those movies comes along and portrays the cool, you know, nifty thing they could do, it's hard then to convince the audience members who have become captured by, oh, such a great idea, to not do that. Don't do a Fight Club.
Yeah, I mean, if you just take the playbook of providing structure, violence, rebelliousness, and direction to like frothy, anxiety-ridden young men, they're gonna fall in line and enjoy whatever it is that you're feeding them. So
yeah, I don't have this on my list. Great movie, but yeah, not one of my favorites. I don't really ever intend on watching it again. But killer performances by all involved, even Meatloaf. Next one I got, The Five Obstructions. Another Lars von Trier. This one is a documentary of sorts where Lars von Trier forces his friend and mentor Jorgen Leth, another Danish filmmaker, to remake one of his short films, which is called The Perfect Human, 5 times, each time with a new obstruction to see if Jorgen Leth can make a comeback in his own career. Results may vary. Incredible work of art, incredible re-examination of why Von Trier and Leth made films in the first place. The only other thing we've talked about so far that it's even similar to would be Close Up. Somewhere in that vein. But yeah, can't recommend it enough. Also hard to find for some reason. I don't know why. It's 2003 Danish documentary. It should be easy to watch.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch this one for a while. We're in the same neck of the woods for the next one, Fireman's Ball by Milos Forman. He is a Polish director, I believe.
That sounds right.
I love this movie. This movie is like laugh out loud hilarious, as well as like pretty well examining human nature and the way that people in power will abuse their power to get what they want, whether it's more money, sex, power, or food, or safety, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, super good.
Yeah, pretty much just decrying the Soviet bloc states for their open corruption and incompetence, which I believe did get Milos Forman kicked out of Poland.
This movie did?
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
I mean, don't worry. He only moved to America and made Amadeus and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Right. Became an international wonder of a director. So big deal. Florida Project.
Yeah, I have that.
It's a nice modern neo-realistic movie directed by Sean Baker about a project in Florida. Basically a hotel set up for poor people to live, and it's about a little girl and her wondrous life living near Disney World or Disneyland, whichever one is in Florida.
I don't know. Our parents didn't love us, so they didn't take us to Disney World or Disneyland, so we don't know the difference. Obviously, I say that tongue in cheek. I'm glad we didn't go. Think we would be a little bit more taken with consumerism if we did, but I'm sure I'll get there when I have children of my own. Just feed into the consumerism. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean this movie is Sean Baker, someone who can get amazing performances out of non-actors, and there's no exception here. Everybody in this is pretty much perfect. There's a stray Willem Dafoe who doesn't play a weirdo or a wacko. For once, Willem Dafoe is the straight man in a movie filled with weirdos and wackos. Mm-hmm. The little girl, who had to have been 5 or 6 at the time of shooting, is an absolute star. Just has charisma for days and steals every scene. Pretty memorable ending in this one, where they break into Disney World and illegally filmed some stuff. Not good.
No, it's very good. I'm a big fan.
What do you got next?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, I think that the Florida Project is a perfect demonstration of the fact that you and I are just interested in movies regardless of plot or like actors. Like if enough people recommend a movie to me and explain like, oh, I think you would like it because of this, or they just say like it's good because blah blah blah, I want to give a movie a chance. But like if I hear enough detraction from a movie, then I don't know. Like we've talked about, we have so many other movies that we want to watch. I don't know, the way you were summarizing the movie, it just made me realize that the plot of the movie doesn't sound like, that great, and it's not. But the movie itself is excellent.
I would argue that the best movies ever made are the ones that have the simplest plots, because they're able to drive towards the emotional truth at the home of the whole of the characters, as opposed to getting bogged down in some sort of convolution. And I think that's why drama is usually the place where, the most impactful emotion comes from, because a lot of times with stuff like genre filmmaking in horror or science fiction, it's really easy to get bogged down in all the other pretty things, either be it the special effects or the absurdity of the story or building up the world, and you forget why you're making this emotion-based art form in the first place. Which is why, Blade Runner's not on my list, because even though that ending scene is like the bedrock of the movie emotionally, they like forget that that's their end point along the way. Whereas the
Yeah.
Florida Project is just the entire time is going for that.
Yeah, that's fair. Speaking of I mean, this is like a diametrical opposite to the Florida Project. The Godfather.
There we go. We got to the reveal at long last.
Oh, you don't have The Godfather.
No.
Godfather 2.
No. Nope. None of that. None of that trash.
Ah, I see now why you chose that background.
Just to be a bastard, man. Just picking not only the incorrect number of movies, but a movie that I knew would be guaranteed to be on anyone's list that I just didn't put on mine.
Why isn't it on your list?
Because I like these 150 other movies more.
All right, I need you to go through every single one and tell me why compared to The Godfather.
If this was 200 movies, Godfather wouldn't be on there. Godfather 2 might sneak on. I mean, the reason why is kind of what I was just talking about. Like, as much as I love a film because of its exercises in some sort of academic or intellectual rigidness to the technicality of filmmaking, no amount of skill in that is ever going to make up for the emotional truth that the filmmakers or actors or all the people involved in the production are really trying to go for. And so all these other movies on this list give me some stronger emotional reaction than The Godfather, which to me is of the utmost craft in almost every single way, but really doesn't make me feel anything other than, yeah, that was done flawlessly. But I have like no real connection to Michael Corleone as the character. I don't feel sad when I see Vito Corleone bite the dust. I don't feel anything when James Caan gets kablamoed. I laugh a little bit at the leave the cannolis line, but like I could never tell someone that like The Godfather 1 and 2 aren't like perfect movies. They are like flawless movies. I just don't have any sort of emotional attachment to them.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like recognizing that the Mona Lisa is perfectly crafted, but then also just being like, but I just like this other thing that much more.
I thought it'd be bigger. That's like the common thing people say about the Mona Lisa. I thought it would be bigger.
Yeah, I mean, The Godfather is on my list because I really love the pacing as well as just like seeing the turmoil within the family and how that all unfolds, as well as like the time period. I mean, the meta narrative as well of it. I mean, this kind of relates to the toxic masculinity as well, but not in the toxic masculinity sense, but that people like get confused on the movie in that they like see it as a blueprint of what to do.
I mean, it's a blueprint for seizing power.
Right.
Not in a good way though.
But it also shows like the result of that in a negative light.
Yes.
Very solid movie if you've never seen The Godfather. From a craft perspective, very, very excellent.
I mean, it's very well directed. The editing pretty much makes it flow as smoothly as possible. The cinematography is always in service of the story. All of the actors deliver their performances precisely as they should. The music is good. Set design is all as it should be in line with everything. It's well written. It's an interesting plot. It just, I don't know.
There's not really an emotional truth or emotional payoff.
Like when his wife dies, nothing, no feeling from Nolan, because they never develop her as a character. It's that they're just like, no, his wife's dead. And I'm like, oh, good, maybe you can go back to America.
I like when he's in Italy.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I didn't care. I don't care about the wife dying. It's just, the bomb goes on. Oh no, the ultimate hypocrisy. I think we'll try to wrap up here. This is like we're maybe a third of the way through, a little over a third.
Yeah, and we've been on the call for nigh 5 hours.
Yeah, so for anyone who's listening to our tens of thousands of millions of viewers, we do greatly appreciate it, especially because our sponsors. Some people don't like that there are sponsors. Big Biscuit, you know,
Oh, okay. I was gonna say the biscuits
Grit
and
Gang.
gravy.
Yeah. Ever since Raytheon dropped us, we've been in some trouble. We have not been able to secure funding, which is why we have to rely on the likes of, the morally dubious Big Biscuit Gang.
Yeah, we'll see how much they continue after these episodes, but this
I've
will.
been on my best behavior here, all right. Other than decry not having Godfather on my list.
Yeah, that one they might take issue with as being a movie and story podcast. But
Have my license revoked.
hey, it's your list. I would say this concludes part one of our favorites. I'm gonna string together these videos and hope you guys enjoyed this part. Stay tuned for the next one. See you all later.